Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on March the 1st of 2016. I'm your host, gaming psychologist, and with me as always, my saltiest pretzel.
Caffeine Rage.
Yep, I didn't even go to the list this week. What you said before the show was what I went with. Anyways, on today's show, of course, we'll be discussing the games we played this week, Microsoft's plan to unify the PC and Xbox One platforms, video game reviews are broken and things need to change, and the Spintires blowout. We're also going to have a pretty decent community corner this week, and I think big
we're up to
Steam...
a community nook.
Community nook. Community couch.
And I've seen this video.
And we'll probably have a pretty decent Steam discussion as well, or deals discussion, I should say.
Oh, yeah.
So, Rage, how are you in this... It's been almost 2 weeks since we've recorded.
Yeah. It's been lonesome. And I'm a little pissed off with some of the news that we've gotten in the last 3 or 4 hours.
Yes.
And none of it political, I might add.
No, I'm going to keep my mouth shut about the preliminary... What do they call it? Super Tuesday? Or Yeah, the Super Tuesday results, the prelims. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about those any more than this.
Yeah, I was more commenting. I realized as soon as I said that, it's like, oh, wait, we're recording this on Super Tuesday, so people may be taking that the wrong way until we get to that news article.
Right. No, we're not going to get... Well, I was going to say we're not going to get political. Sometimes we get political. We'll
get politically incorrect.
Yeah, we'll get politically incorrect, but probably no more political than usual. Completely lost my whole train of thought with that, though. So, Rage, tell me about video games you've played.
Oh, well, should I go into the short thing or the long thing first?
Let's start with the short thing, and then we'll slide into the long thing, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, my.
And again, losing the child safety thing right off the bat this week.
We are desperate to get rid of that.
Well, we want to be for grown-ups. We could just talk about sex for one whole episode. That would probably get us on every banned list that's out there.
Banned in Australia, banned in Germany.
Banned in the Middle East.
Oh, well, they don't allow fun in the Middle East to begin with.
And there we go. Slightly into politics. And politically incorrectness.
Okay, anyways. Well, I guess I should get back to the games I played. I played a game that I got as a freebie late last year. It was something that Steam was giving away called Vertiginous Golf.
What golf?
It's a Vertiginous, V-E-R-T-I-N-G, or sorry, I-G-I-N-O-U-S.
Vertiginous Golf.
Yeah, they only said a couple times during the game, so it's a steampunk mini golf game. And going into it, you have a certain expectation with games, especially games like this. And one of those expectations is that you don't get a story. It's just a golf game. And, well, there's a story in this. I can't tell you what the story is because it's word salad. And, I was wanting to play a golf game and I didn't want to have a story. So I sort of kind of zoned out after about 5 minutes.
It has a neat aesthetic. I'm looking at it on Steam, but how do you put a story in a golf game?
I have no idea. The initial startup, you're basically walking into this parlor, and it's almost like you're Matrix-like. You sit in this chair, and you kind of beam your consciousness up to this floating golf course in the sky. And during the round, you will see records on the play field. And if you shoot across those, it'll stop your ball and give you a free stroke, naturally, because it stopped your putt, and start spewing, probably about 20 to 30 seconds worth of dialogue in this old Victorian-style speech. And I'm not going to say it's terrible, but going into it, I was not expecting, to get story in this. So, yeah, I was starting to play this fairly late at night, just kind of winding down, looking through my library on what to play for maybe an hour before calling it a night. And it just started spewing this word salad, and it kills the flow of the game because it stops you from playing during this whole spiel. If I was more awake, I'd probably enjoy it a bit more because there's this little bit of weirdness to it because it's like 3 or 4 people that are talking. There's this woman that's also the news. And then there's this guy that I think is a scientist that invented the whole process of beaming yourself up to this golf course. And then there's this masked guy that keeps doing these very threatening short quotes. You'll be punished, that sort of thing.
Right. Okay.
And I didn't play it far enough to get a real resolution to the story. I played 1 course out of, I think, 4 that has story on it. And it just completely kills the flow of the game.
To have to stop and listen to the story stuff that you don't care about?
Yeah, I don't care about the story. I didn't start playing this for a story. I'm pretty sure the Steam store page doesn't really, give you the hint that there would be a story in it. So when you're firing it up, it's just, not to say, like I said, it's not a terrible game. It's not. It's just going into it expecting to, goof off and play some golf. Don't. Go play Winning Putt instead.
So the Steam store, here's the first paragraph of the description. After suffering on the ground under a haze, smog, and pollution, the people of Scudborough, I think that's how you say that, have been split in half by a lottery, with the winners heading up into the clouds to live in a floating city called New London. It's got a hyphen, London. Yeah. For those left below, they can get a temporary escape from the gloom through the Vertisphere, a device that allows them to rise virtually into the cloudy paradise to play mini-golf on challenging obstacle courses floating in the sky. But something is amiss in this nation of 2 cities. Another voice is trying to break through the propaganda message of peace and prosperity, the voice of an insurrection. So I get the idea that there's some kind of weird...
Yeah, but you wouldn't expect it to stop play during the middle of things.
Yeah, I would expect it to have odd, out-of-place cutscenes between courses.
Yeah, maybe between holes, have something pop up there. But literally, your first putt, you land on a record, and then, it's playing audio for 20 to 30 seconds. Especially, this type of game is something that I listen to podcasts to or listen to music to.
Right. You can't do that when you have to stop and listen to dialogue. Also, just for the record, I looked up the word vertiginous, and that's how, according to Google, I should pronounce it.
Well, I was too busy not caring at that point.
It is an adjective that means causing vertigo, especially by being extremely high or steep.
Yeah, somebody had their word of the day calendar out for this.
They got one of them fancy $5 words.
They got the fancy $5 words.
Well, it sounds like a mildly interesting game mired in pointless story.
Yeah, don't play it an hour before going to sleep. Because if you're tired, you're not going to understand what the hell is going on. And then you'll, pretty quickly not care. And just be annoyed that it keeps stopping the action.
So what's the long story? Is this your Civ story that you mentioned
yes, I finally finished my Civ game.
Excellent. Now on to Sword of the Stars.
Well, I'm torn on that because I also have a mod for Civ that... let me get into the Civ game first. Okay.
Right. Like I said, excellent. On to Sword of the Stars.
Yeah. Where did I last leave off? I left off around when the UN was formed.
Right. Yep, that sounds about right. Because you were talking about delegates and who had more.
Yeah, I was set up for essentially 3 win conditions. A democratic victory where I just controlled the UN completely. A science victory where I was so far ahead in science that no one was really able to contest me. And then the culture victory, which was going to be my long game if those 2 failed for any reason.
Right, okay.
Well, things went pretty smoothly throughout most of the modern and information ages. The Ottoman Empire decided to pick a fight with the Romans, and the Romans and the Japanese got in a little scuffle as well, once again over some city-state somewhere. I have no idea where.
I'm nodding. You can't see me nod, but I'm nodding.
Yeah, well, you know how it is, right?
I know how it is.
Well, it comes down to I have approximately 10 turns till the next UN meeting to decide the world leader, which I have enough delegates at this point to basically win it without, any trading whatsoever. I've made myself allies to about 5 or 6 city-states, which gives me delegates from there. And where I've came in first or second, I've gotten delegates there for the last half dozen votes. And I was also following the world ideology and the world religion, which gives me delegates. So I was at 32 of 32 I needed, and no one could stop me for it.
Okay.
And approximately 5 turns before this, I noticed a pop-up on the right-hand side, the little alerts, that the Ottomans have captured the Japanese home capital, or original capital, which that's the domination victory, is capture all the original capitals. You don't have to completely slaughter everyone, you just need the original capitals.
Right.
And on the pop-up, it said 3 of 4, 4 or 5, because you need possession of your own as well. He got Sweden, he got Rome when I wasn't looking, and he got Japan. I was the last one that had my original capital outside the Ottoman Empire. And I look, and I see a flotilla coming towards London. So I immediately pull all my battleships back. I actually outclass them by about a full upgrade on every single one of my naval units. So he was running ironclads with 1 battleship. I was running full battleships and carriers with aircraft to boot. I get into a defensive position on my turn. I had luckily enough to really repel this, because all I need to do is hold on for approximately 10 turns.
Okay.
I move everything in position, hit end turn. The flotilla goes right by me and goes towards Japan.
What did Japan do to piss them off again then?
I have no idea, but the thing is that at this point, he had to know that I at least had the democratic victory in hand. He had to stop me. And I'm pretty sure that from the line of sight, he would also saw some of the spaceship parts moving around. So I was then in a little bit of a pickle. I was approximately 20 turns away from the spaceship victory, the science victory, but only 10 away from the democratic victory, and it was ticking down pretty quickly. So what do I do? Well, I decide, this world's all right. I'll take it. So I elect myself world leader and win the game. And then I hit one more turn, and I unfortunately, getting the democratic victory blocks out the other victory conditions. So I can't actually assemble the spaceship, but I have all the parts together in my capital, or around my capital.
Right.
So in my mind, I've assembled the spaceship. So I start nuking the Ottomans. I should tell you one other thing. I kind of forgot about this. I took special note of... remember last time I talked about Civ? I talked about the scarcity of the uranium in the game.
Yes, I remember. I was about to say...
There was 3 uranium nodes. I captured one with a very, very forward city that... Basically, the only thing that city produced was defensive buildings just to try to build its strength to make sure that it is not very capturable. And I made friends with one of the nearby city-states as well, so I would have a defensive force if, things go to shit.
Right.
I also went after the other city-state that had uranium, because it was that one location, a city-state that had it pretty much on its doorstep. And then it was deep in the Japanese Empire. I could see uranium through the satellite system. So I made especially sure to get that city-state away from the Ottoman Empire. So he had no access to nukes whatsoever.
That is good. Win the arms race.
Yeah, and pretty much every time I got enough money, I was just dumping a ton of money into that city-state to get influence to make sure that he couldn't get it back. So in my mind, the spaceship goes off. As it's launching, there's Queen Elizabeth in the window, flipping off the Ottomans as nukes rain down on them. And of course, blaring over the entire world, God save the Queen.
Nice. Well done, sir. Well done.
Yeah, and I'm tempted to load up the mod that I found, which supposedly makes the AI a lot smarter, because he was in a perfect position, if not to foil me, to at least try to win himself, because he had 4 of 5 capitals. He just needed mine. And with the force that he floated by me, he didn't have any ground troops, so he couldn't have captured the capital. But he could have made a hell of an effort, because if he ignored every single one of my naval units and just went after the capital, there's a chance that he could have weakened me enough that he could have just sent in any ground troop to try to capture it and, grab the game right out from under me. Something that any human player would do. And I think the only reason why he didn't do that was that probably about 15 or 20 turns before that, he offered me a decoration of friendship, and I took it. Because I knew that they're less likely. They'll still break decorations of friendship, but the AI tends to respect those until they're over. And when I started nuking them, there was like 2 turns left on it.
Right. Well, I'm glad that all worked out in your favor.
Now my choice is learning Sword of the Stars, loading up the difficulty AI mod, or it looks like Dwarf Fortress is about stable enough to dive into.
Well, I would be only slightly sad if you didn't pick Sword of the Stars. Like, I've been looking forward to playing that game with someone
I
for a very
I need to learn
long
Sword
time.
of the Stars, and that's probably going to be a long learning process, isn't it?
You could probably learn it pretty well in one game against like an easy AI. That way you can just kind of focus on learning the tech tree and how all of those systems work. And then bump it up.
This would be co-op,
2
right?
games probably. Yeah, we could play it co-op. We could do one together, like 2 versus 1, and I could help you learn stuff and just be there to back you up.
Yeah, we could do that.
But I also would totally understand if you wanted to go play other games.
Well, it's just Dwarf Fortress has been sitting there, constantly getting updates, and I've been looking at it like, oh, when will you stop updating so you'll be stable enough to play? Not to say that you can't, just ignore a few of these updates, but a lot of times they fix some rather annoying bugs.
Right.
And sometimes the Fortress, the save files are compatible across the saves, but sometimes they're not, so it's a little bit of a crapshoot.
Right. Kind of like Kerbal. Every time they do an update.
Well, supposedly they're making it where they're not going to be breaking saves anymore, at least stock saves.
Yeah. Stock saves have been relatively safe for a long time.
Yeah, botted saves, good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
So let's talk about Eve.
No, we'll save Eve for last, like we always do. So I went on my trip last week, as everybody knows. I said that's why we recorded this short episode last time. So every time I go on a trip, I like to pick out some mobile games to play. And this trip was no exception. The first game I played was Avengers Academy, or I guess Marvel's Avengers Academy. It is, I don't know, kind of your hurry up and wait.
Looks like it's full of pretty boys.
It is.
I mean, even the Hulk looks good.
They all look very good. They're all like 19. Think like Teen Titans, although maybe you could say like college Titans. They're all like in their early 20s, and they all start without like their maximum, I guess, superhero stuff. Like Iron Man starts out with like one repulsor blaster on one of his arms, and he's wearing like a jacket.
So he's Michael Jackson.
Jeans and.
He has one glove.
Yeah, he's kind of like superhero Michael Jackson, yeah.
And he's white, and
yeah, but they're all like really immature, selfie-taking, whiny college kids.
I would hate this game.
It's not great, to be honest. Like, I'm a huge fan of the Marvel universe, and there are a couple of neat things in it, like building the team, and it does have kind of, your comic book storyline type storytelling, which I like, but if it doesn't get a lot better real quick, I'm gonna drop it. I mean, it's basically, just your toilet game. You play it for 5 minutes. You send all of your superheroes out on missions or to doing tasks around your college campus, because basically that's what you build, is a college campus for superheroes.
Oh, I would so hate this game.
But
I
you do that
near
for 5
college
minutes
campus.
and then, yeah. But you do that, send all your superheroes out to do their whatevers, and then you come back in an hour and check on them, and it's one of those kinds of games.
Oh.
I have no idea how good the business model is for it. It's like
you need a lot more fiber to be able to play it that long.
Yes, you do. But it's pretty in your face constantly about like promos and premiums, and they even use the term early access for a microtransaction.
Oh God.
Yeah, an early access microtransaction, because it's really new, and maybe somebody
the
has
cancer
been really
spreads.
invested in this game. Maybe somebody's been really invested in this game and sit around long enough to unlock the Hulk already. But the Hulk is listed as an early access character, and he's like,
oh, wow.
You can kind of see him on the map, but he's buried under kind of like fog of war and like the debris that you have to clear.
Bags of eaten Doritos and just beer cans all over the place.
There are beer cans all over the place. Actually, that's a thing. Because it
is a college
campus. The more I talk about it, the more this game seems awful. It's kind of amusing to play, but if you can't stand the narrative, it will bug you to no end, and it doesn't have a lot of staying power. I'm just kind of sticking with it just because I love Marvel, the Marvel universe, and I want it to be better.
As a toilet game, you'd rate this more on the Taco Bell end than high fiber end.
Yeah, that's a pretty good measuring scale right there. Yeah, it's on the Taco Bell end of toilet games.
Just a quick in and out.
Yeah, pretty much. That's all I have to say about it. I might report back on it in the future, but odds are if it doesn't get much better in the next couple days, I'm just going to stop playing it altogether. The next game I played is Grand Prix Story, which actually is a lot of fun. It's a pixel art game that's kind of in the same lieu of Game Dev Story, Game Dev Tycoon.
Same lieu. It's a toilet game as well?
But
Thank you.
But it's one of those style games where you manage a group of people, and for this one you're managing a racing team, and you start out with one driver and one pit crew person and like one really old beat up car, and you have to manage your driver and have to make sure that he trains and also is well rested for races, and you have to manage your pit crew and build them up and make sure that they are all skilled and can work on the car, and you make modifications to the car, and as you go and level up, which is really just unlocking like the higher classes of races, you start unlocking better and better cars, and then eventually you get a research team and you can start doing like motorsport research. And I'm up to like they're called Formula 3000 cars in the real world. I'm up to those. I have 2 drivers, 2 pit crew teams, and I'm running multiple teams per race now. And the game is a lot of fun. It's a management game, so once you set your drivers loose on the track, you just have to trust that you've made good decisions for like fitting the right driver with the right car and the right car set up for the track. And it's pretty in depth, honestly. I've always said that my favorite part of Gran Turismo is B-Spec mode, which is where that you manage a racing team. And this gives me the same kind of feeling of B-Spec mode from Gran Turismo, except on my smartphone. It's got a really cute pixel art graphic style. It's got lots of references to real world things, racing stuff, video game stuff, popular cultural references, that kind of thing. So you get a nice little laugh every once in a while when you catch one of the references, and you can play it. It actually fits really well into kind of the weird kind of middle ground for mobile games that they struggle. Like, you can play it for 5 minutes at a time. 5 minutes is enough time to set up your racing team and send them on a quick race. Or you can sit down with it for 30 or 40 minutes and do like a Grand Prix style race where you have multiple races back to back that are multiple laps and that sort of thing. So it can be played for a short time or for a long amount of time. And I quite enjoyed it. I'm about halfway through the game, I think. My racing team is 6 years old, and I'm halfway through the classes of racing cars. And I'm starting to get into the really, like, the bottom end of the high-end stuff. Like, Formula 3000 cars are basically baby Formula 1 cars. They're F1 in body style. They just have smaller engines, and so they run at lower speeds. But, I mean, all I've got left is, like, F1 and touring cars. There's actually an off-road portion of the game that I haven't gotten to yet, because there's equipment that I've unlocked to improve cars handling off-road, but I've only seen one track that has an off-road segment, so I wonder if that's to be unlocked too, like rally races or something. But I played it for probably 6 or 7 hours on my trip.
Oh, that's pretty good mileage for, if you don't pardon the term, for a racing, for a mobile game, I should say. How does it do information-wise? Because that's a problem I found for a lot of these management games, is that it just doesn't give you enough information to make a educated, guess on what to do.
It does really good when it comes to, like, understanding what your cars do and what your pit crew does and what parts do. The only part where it really lets you down in that respect is your driver, which is actually a pretty important thing, because your driver has a whole bunch of stats, but a couple of them are pretty obvious. Like, you have pedal management, so that's how good he is. It's switching between the gas and brake at the right time so that he can, corner properly and stuff like that. Although maybe that's only obvious to me because I love racing games. I just now had that thought. There's pedal management and there's steering. Steering, I think, is pretty obvious to everybody. And then other than that, there's 4 more stats that you can't look up any information on, and I don't know what they do. I just keep leveling them up, and he keeps performing better in races, so I have no idea what they do. Other than that, though, everything makes sense and is pretty informative. Like, they'll have info boxes that you can... it's a mobile game, so you tap and hold, and it'll pull up an info box that explains what a part does, or what the stats are on a car, or that sort of thing. But that doesn't exist for the drivers. So I don't know if it's obfuscated somewhere else, or if it really is just not in the game. To be honest, the driver's the least important aspect of the racing team. Like, it mostly comes down to your car's... Yeah, it mostly comes down to your car's performance. Like, you can have a really crappy driver. As long as he doesn't wreck the car, you're probably still going to do okay. I mean, there's... at, like, really high level play, like on the at least the top level tournaments that I have unlocked right now, if I send in my better driver, my more experienced one, versus my less experienced one in the same car, the more experienced driver does perform better by a couple seconds a lap, but it's only a couple of seconds, which in racing time can be a lot, but these are pretty big tracks with long lap times, so a couple of seconds isn't that bad. It mostly comes down to the car's performance and how well your pit crew does. But it's a good little game. I bought it at full price for $4.99. I've seen it on sale for 99 cents before. And the dev that makes this game does a whole bunch of these style of management games. Like, there's they did Game Dev Story. They did, what's it called? Pirate Life Story or High Seas Story, something like that. They've got, I think, 30 games that are out in the United States, and most of them are kind of in this genre of, the weird kind of management game where you just set up stats and tell it to do a thing, and it does a thing. But I picked Grand Prix Story just because I like the car management theme. But it's a good game. I enjoyed my time with it, and I'm going to keep playing it. I want to finish rounding out the tech tree and see where it goes.
I know where it goes. Around in circles.
Or ovals. But since this has, like, Formula 1 racing and stuff, there are left and right turns.
There's a right turn?
Mm-hmm. I know it's baffling for an American, but there are right turns.
But
now,
what sorcery is this?
It's magic. Now we come to Eve. All right, children, gather around and let me tell you a story of Eve Online in the universe of New Eden, or I guess the galaxy of New Eden. So there has been, of course, the ongoing drama of me leaving the corp with bad management and us wiping out all of their funds or not all of their funds, but some of their funds.
Oh, you
and
didn't
all
take
of
it
their.
all?
Well, we didn't have access to all of it.
Oh.
Because only one of us was an officer, and he didn't have access to all of the banks, or all of the wallets, only one or two of them. We cleaned those out, but we didn't get it all. We got everything we could. We cleaned out all of their blueprints, all of their parts that we had access to, all of that stuff.
So basically, kind of ruined them, but not fully?
I don't know how much we ruined them, but they're definitely in turmoil. And this was during the middle of a war, so we took a whole bunch of their money and all of their R&D stuff and a whole bunch of their parts in the middle of a war.
I bet the guys that are picking on that corporation love you now.
I'm sure they do. So there were 4 of us that did this. We split the loot 4 ways. We all have, yay, awesome. What are we going to do? So here's where the next part of drama comes in. One of the 4 didn't care. This was not me. I had an opinion. But one of them was like, I don't care. I'll just go with whatever the majority says.
Oh, so it's the honey badger of the group.
Yes. Honey badger don't care. One of them, and this was the officer from the previous corp, wanted to start his own corp and have us become members and kind of use this as our kind of starting bankroll. We basically would liquidate everything and use that as our startup capital.
Mm-hmm.
One of us, and this was me, wanted to work as kind of a player group, but not form a new corporation and instead just lay low for a while. Because if we formed a new corporation, basically immediately we're going to get targeted by our old corporation and any of their allies.
Yeah, how hard would it be to find a corporation that you guys create?
Pretty easy. Actually, super easy.
Just searching for it?
They could,
for one of you guys?
Just search for one of us and see what corporation we're in.
And then search for the other ones and see, they're in the same corporation.
Yeah, so either they would assume that we've made a new corporation or we all joined the same corporation, and then they would just go after that corporation.
Which would be hilarious if it was a higher level corporation.
It would be. They might not go after a higher level corp, but we were going to... he wanted to make a new one, so we would have been a brand new corporation. But anyways, I wanted to lay low for a while. We had all of our equipment and stuff, just use it as a group, and then let things blow over, and then we could decide maybe in a few weeks or a month. And then the 4th guy wanted to just go join another corporation and trade our way in with Intel, just telling them everything we knew about our last corporation and the alliance that we were a part of and all of that jazz. Like, basically go join a rival and give them all of the intel that we could.
How valuable is that?
Extremely valuable, actually. Because we would have known, at least for the short term, where all of the assets that were remaining were located, where all of their bases were, how big the actual corp was. You can figure it out, but without intel on the inside, you can't actually go look and see a corporation's members list. So basically, you're just kind of guessing. So that intel can be extremely valuable. And plus alts that weren't in the corp, we knew of some of those so that they could be targeted and attacked. Intelligence is extremely vital in EVE Online. It's just like in the real world.
Dickery.
Knowledge. Dickery is very powerful, but knowledge is power. And so we would have basically just been selling out our corporation. And all of that seems well and good, and I probably could have been swayed to that idea since we would be going to a corporation most likely that was at least as strong or stronger than our previous corporation, giving them all of our knowledge and then letting them go fight it out. And we would be a part of the corporation, but the war would die down eventually. I could have been swayed to that side. I didn't want to start a new corporation at that point in time because I didn't want to become targeted, because then I'd be right in the same boat I was, except with a weaker corporation.
Yeah.
And so began the infighting, because instead of discussing this like adults, the 3 of them thought that they would just bicker.
Great.
And I attempted to discuss it like an adult with them, particularly MJ. But it did not go as a discussion between adults. And so rather than engaging, I did the adult thing and said, you know what? you guys can do what you want. You can keep my initial investment. I don't want it back. I've made, I've got my share of the loot, which more than makes up for that. You guys do what you want. If you get it sorted out and I'm not doing anything, feel free to hit me up and we'll discuss something. But otherwise, I'm not dealing with this. And that was that. I got a rather angry message from them, each of them individually.
All of them?
Well, two of them.
The honey badger didn't send you one?
No, because
I guess he didn't care about it.
Yeah, he didn't. He didn't care, so he didn't send me a message. But the other two sent me a message, which I read but chose not to respond to.
Did you read it in the meaning of nasally voice?
I read it in my internet voice, which is like, oh, gosh, you are such a dick. You're an idiot, and you can't do anything right.
Why are you doing an impersonation of me?
Is that? I don't think that's an impersonation of you, but all right. I guess you're my internet voice. So I'm ignoring them right now, and my main character joined my other character in the corporation that my alt had joined. And so now we're one big happy family, and Ghost Shark, for those of you listening, Ghost Shark is a friend that both Rage and I have. He joined our corporation, and we're an even bigger, happier family.
And suddenly I'm feeling a lot of peer pressure.
In the week and a half since then, we have made 500 million ISK in industry, and now I've got a guy. I've got an ore guy. I've started to get people working for me. I've got this one guy who has been playing for a little bit less than a month, and I was in system with my alt, like both characters mining at the same time, and one of them was in an orca, which for those of you listening who know what an orca is, I've got an orca. It is a whale. It's a really big ship. It's not the biggest ship, but it's a big ship. For those of you who don't know, the orca is a support ship that gives boosts to lots of things, and I've got mine set up for mining boosts and cargo capacity.
Shocking.
And so I'm sitting in system mining, and this guy like warps in, and he's like, "Whoa, I have never seen a ship that big before." And I start talking to him, and he had been playing for a little less than a month, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm part of a corporation. You want to join?" And he was like, "Well, I don't know if I want to join a corporation yet, but I might be interested in taking you up on your offer to sell you ore." And so we got to talking, and we set up a deal, and he mined ore for me that afternoon. And I bought it from him, and then he mined ore for me again the next day, and I bought it from him. And this has been going on for 4 days now. And it is a profitable arrangement.
For you, him, or both?
For both. He's making less money than he would on the open market, but he's not having to transport it and deal with taxes and all of that sort of thing that goes along with it. So he's making money. He's getting it easier than he would go about normally. And then I'm making money off of the minerals that I refine out of the ore because I have a high enough refinery rate that I don't lose anything. So it's profitable for everyone. It saves me time. It's one more person giving me ore.
Yeah, until you decide to go raid another corporation.
Yeah. Somebody asked me, it might have been Ghost Shark. Maybe it was you. Maybe it was Jim. I don't know. Somebody asked me, like, well, so how long until you raid this corporation? And I was like, well, probably I'm not going to, because I'm the one who's contributing the most funds to the corporation, because I'm the highest level player in the corporation. Basically, they just like handed me the reins, and they're like, okay, like the only thing I can't do is close the corporation. Like I don't have CEO rights, so I can't actually disband the corporation. Otherwise, I can do everything. I have access to all the funds. I have access to all the stations and all the parts and all the everything. I mean, if I wanted to, I could take everything from the corporation and leave, but probably 90% of what's there has come from me at this point. And like I'm teaching them. I'm teaching these guys how to, earn money and build industries and that sort of thing. And I mean, it's fun. They're really chill, laid back guys.
For now.
Yeah, for now. I think I said that about my last corporation.
Yeah, I was about to say. I've heard this one before.
There's only 2 of them this time, though. Instead of a corporation of like 40 people, there's only 2. And so usually close-knit groups tend to have less strife and discord among them. Tend. But I mean, I still own all the power in this relationship. Even if they cut me out,
You'll just take your ball and go home.
I'll just take my ball and go home. I'm providing almost everything to this corporation right now. So, I mean, I suppose in the future they could cut me out, but at that point I will have at least made money and stuff along the way. So, I won't be out that much. Because if they start, once they start pulling their weight more, and I pull back a little bit and let them come in and help out more, if they cut me out of the loop, it's like, well, I mean, that sucks, but this was a profitable arrangement, but, I guess I'll just take my ball and go home. You guys are doing it now, not me, so I'm not losing that much. So that's my Eve story for the week. We'll probably talk some more Eve in Community Corner. We got a rather lengthy letter from Supe about...
Probably.
Well, definitely. But he's going to come back to Eve. And he's going to get divorced from his wife, and he's going to blame me, but it'll be okay because we're going to play Eve. At least he seems to indicate that he's going to come back to Eve. His tweets have been along those lines.
Oh, yeah.
He said he was going to blame me if anything happened in his relationship, so I think I can accept that blame, to have one more person to play Eve with.
Suddenly I'm feeling the peer pressure again.
You don't have to join.
I know. Plus, I still have our Warframe clan to keep tabs on.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of these days you guys will be back, and there'll be this awesome dojo that I'll eventually build.
Well, I think we're doing Warframe tomorrow night for our Wednesday night whatever.
Yeah, I haven't started reconstructing the dojo yet, though. That's going to be my next big board project, is build up enough forma to redesign the entire thing.
Well, you have the rights to do that. You are a clan warlord, so you have all the power.
And plus, you haven't seen the absolutely massive sword I've created since the last time you've seen my character.
Oh yeah, massive sword. So you bought into the ad you saw online, I see.
Well, it's not the size of the sword; it's how you swing it.
Not always true. And there goes our child-friendly rating again.
The 3rd or 4th time this episode.
Yeah, so far we're doing good. But
maybe
yeah,
we
that
could
wraps
use
it
it
up
to
for
communicate through Morse code. It comes back and goes away.
I don't know Morse code other than SOS. I can send an SOS in Morse code.
I think everyone can, to be honest.
I've known a lot of people who can't, so I don't know.
Well, it's really easy. So
yeah. Anyways, that wraps it up for the games that I've played this week and the games you've played this week. So let's move it on to the first news story of the week.
Yeah, we got some interesting ones.
Yeah. So, Microsoft to unify the PC and Xbox One platforms, ending fixed console hardware. Oh, Microsoft.
I have one sentence for this. What the fuck are you doing, Microsoft? This didn't work for Sega. This isn't going to work for you.
Yeah. I'm in two minds about it.
Yeah, I will say that it is a way to try to get by the problem that console hardware has, that it's literally obsolete by the time it gets out the door, just because of the long R&D development, the R&D time on it. But
right.
By the time everything's all said and done, the console hardware is obsolete. I don't care what marketing they say, it's obsolete hardware.
Yeah, and the longer it's out there, the more obsolete it becomes.
Yeah. So it is intelligent in that sense, in trying to counteract the way that console hardware just is so out of date. But how are they going to do this? They said that this isn't going to be add-ons. This isn't going to be like the expansion pack on the N64. This isn't going to be like, well, the 32X or the Sega CD.
Okay, let's stop 1 second and just back up
let's talk about this first.
Okay, so first of all, we're tackling the fixed console hardware portion of the topic first, which is fine. Basically,
yeah, it's the easiest to really dive into because the other one starts to get technical.
Right. So basically, during the Xbox, what was it that they did?
The Xbox or the Microsoft conference they had on February 25th, which the news only came out today. There was an embargo on it until March 1st. So all the articles on it are literally less than a day old. So there's really been no time to parse this at all.
Right. And basically what it boils down to is that Microsoft looked at the Sega 32X and went, yeah, that's a good idea. We should do that now.
Yeah, never mind the fact that it actually, I won't say it tanked Sega, but it hurt relations enough that the Sega Saturn didn't sell as well as it should have. Plus, the Sega Saturn had some issues of its own. And because the Sega Saturn was kind of falling behind, they released the Sega Dreamcast, and the Sega Dreamcast didn't live up to expectations and actually was very easy to pirate because it had no copy protection on it. And then they moved on to, oh wait, Sega hasn't done any hardware since then.
Right. So Xbox, they said that they weren't doing add-ons, but they're going to do, and this is an assumption I'm making, they're going to do some kind of upgradable hardware system. Yeah,
they said hardware upgrade. So for sake of argument, I'm just going to call this like the Xbox 1.0, the Xbox 1.1, 1.2, that sort of thing.
Right. So, all right. As a concept, I'm in two minds about. First of all, I think that it's stupid. Even though consoles, whenever they come out the door, are outdated immediately, even though they're weaker than PCs, consoles fill a very specific role in the market for people who just don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with upgrading a piece of hardware. They don't want to deal with making sure that their piece of hardware can run something. Like if you buy a game for your console of choice, you know that it's going to run on it.
Somewhat, at least.
Yeah, I was going to say, even if it's not perfect, given all of the games that release today that don't run well, but we'll gloss over that for the sake of argument.
Yeah, 30 FPS is plenty.
So, on the one hand, it's like, that's what consoles do. Why are you taking your console and basically turning it into a worse version of a PC? Because I can't see this going well in any way without at least more information that we, to figure out how this is all going to work. Because they're saying things like optional hardware upgrades and packages that you can add on. And it's like, what does all of that mean? Like, it's market speak. Give us the actual technical terms for what you're doing here.
Yeah, I think...
Sorry.
I think what they're trying to do here is that, and this also ties into the other half of this, is that, or the other half of this article, I should say, is that they took a look at the mobile phone market and saw people upgrading their hardware, but still technically being an iPhone or technically being an Android phone, and are using that. But the problem is that those phones are subsidized through the contracts that you sign.
Yep, you took the words right out of my mouth.
You're not buying another $500 iPhone. You're updating your contract and paying a little bit of it.
Yeah.
And Microsoft is not going to eat $400 on the Xbox, or however much it would be for the Xbox 1.1. And also you run into a problem of compatibility. How are they going to handle this? Because they said that it is going to be more powerful hardware. Before, when there would be a revision on a console, they would either remove backwards compatibility, which I have a strong opinion about, negative, I might add.
Yep.
Or they make the hardware more efficient, so that it fits it in a smaller size and requires less power, but is still essentially the same specs. I'm blanking on the version numbers, but a late version Xbox 360 would still play the games that the original Xbox 360 would, except, maybe with less red rings of death, but still, that's beside the point.
Just a few less red rings of death.
Yeah, just a few. But it is still essentially the same hardware. An Xbox 1.1, how would it handle an Xbox 1.0 game? Or better yet, how would an Xbox 1.0 console handle a game that is made for the higher end hardware of a 1.1, a 1.2, a 1.3? Is it just going to be downgraded graphics? Is it just going to run poorly, or is it not going to run at all?
Yeah.
This
or
is
are they
taking...
going to do...
sorry, go ahead.
Or are they going to do what they did at the beginning, like when we were still between generations? You know, the new generation was relatively young and the old generation was still strong. You had games coming out that had features removed that just couldn't run, like from a computing power standpoint. Like they couldn't run all of the features on the older hardware.
Yeah, but it's going to get even more confusing on that, in that you're not looking at like the Xbox 360 versus the Xbox One versions, because those are two very distinct things. You're looking at Xbox 1.0 versus a 1.1.
Versus 1.2 versus 1.3. The farther this goes and the more disparate the hardware becomes.
Yeah, you're taking away the biggest strength of console gaming, that you don't have to worry about compatibility issues.
Right. Now I'm going to talk about the other part of my mind, which is I like this idea. On the whole, I like this as an idea. I genuinely love my Xbox. I don't like it.
Well, why don't
it's
you
the
marry
center.
it?
Well, maybe I will. It's the center of my living room entertainment center. I mean, I've got a couple of Windows 10 PCs that I can stream media to it from if I want to watch something on the big screen. We watch Netflix on it. We play family games on it. I've got a couple of games that I play on it myself. It is the center of our entertainment system. I would love to be able to upgrade that system to run more efficiently, not only to play games, but the Xbox OS. I don't know what its problem is. I don't know if it's coded poorly. I don't know if it's got too much for the Xbox operating system to handle the dashboard. App, program,
I know
OS,
what's wrong
whatever
with
it is.
You have to pay to use online.
Yes, but I'm talking about performance-wise though.
Oh.
I don't know what it is that is causing the performance problems, but every time there's a console update, it gets worse, which leads me to believe that it's either coding issues or the fact that they keep piling more stuff onto it, and you're starting to see the limited computing power of the Xbox itself, get taxed farther and farther. So I would love to upgrade the performance of my machine. I don't know, with some kind of CPU module. I say module just because it's I assume it would come in a little box or something, and you would unplug the old CPU box and put the new one in.
Yeah, that wouldn't be how they would do it. It would literally be a brand new console. That's how I took all these announcements, is that it's the Mac version of upgrading. You get rid of the old one and you buy a new one.
That's how I'm taking the Xbox 1.1, the first version of this. You buy a new.
If they do a complete redesign.
Yeah, I'm taking it as you buy your first, and again, we're just speculating because they didn't give us any real information. But I'm taking it as, you buy one new thing for sure. You upgrade your Xbox to the 1.1. But 1.1 is modular, and you can change out the parts on it. And I don't think it'll be like a PC where you actually, unlock your RAM chips and pull them out and put some new RAM chips in and, make sure they're locked in place. I think it would be
like the expansion pack for the Nintendo 64.
Right. It'll be some kind of little module or something, and you'll disconnect it and you'll put the new one in its place, and it'll just, snap right in place, and you're good to go. That's how I'm picturing it. I mean, the Xbox is basically a big box anyways. You just make it out of smaller boxes, and you change out the box that you need, and then your Xbox is Xboxes.
I'm really not sure if they'll do that. That requires a lot of redesign, and it's a lot easier just to sell an upgraded version as a whole unit and not have to worry about the problems that all of the connectors would cause.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. I just,
Sorry to rain on your parade.
I don't think it's going to work if they do it that way, though. Like, marketing companies or, the marketing team, the accounting team is probably, like you said earlier, looking at smartphones going, yeah, people upgrade this hardware every single year to a new version. We could get away with that with a console, but then they've completely missed the point that, 90% of people are on contracts that subsidize their phones, and so they're only paying like $100 a year, every year or two for a new piece of hardware, as opposed to, $500-$600 for a new piece of hardware every year or two.
Smartphones take a lot more of a beating than a console does.
Oh yeah, they take a huge beating. A console might get moved around a few times in its life, from one shelf to another. My smartphone is in my pocket everywhere I go every day. I drop it 2 or 3 times a day, so.
Yeah, so it needs to be replaced a lot more often than maybe not an Xbox 360, but still.
I have replaced more Xbox 360s in my life than I've owned cell phones. That's all cell phones, not just smartphones. Every cell phone I've ever owned, I've had less than I had Xbox 360s. So that is an accurate statement. I had 16 Xbox 360s. I think in my life I've had 10 cell phones.
Wow. You're either really lucky or really unlucky. I can't decide which.
And most of those cell phones have been because I upgraded them, not because they broke. I've only ever had 2 cell phones break in my entire life. Which is definitely lucky, because if you followed me around for a day, you would see that I am very rough on stuff.
Oh, my.
Oh, yeah. But, so yeah, that's where I'm in two minds about this hardware thing. I think in theory, it's a good idea. But in practice, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, and how are they going to communicate this? Because we talked about how the average gamer is not the type that goes to a lot of gaming sites. They're the ones that, just buy a game on a whim, or, hear about a game coming out by going to GameStop and seeing the pre-order shelf.
Yeah.
How are they going to communicate the difference between 1.0, 1.1, and 1.2? The Steam can't even do it with the Steam box. And now that's a very niche market.
Yeah. I think I'm in my mind thinking of this like, buying a PC or buying a laptop. Like, your average consumer has no idea. They walk into a store and go, ooh, this one has nice buzzwords, or ooh, this one fits within my budget.
This one's shiny.
And they buy that one. I mean, we associate with people in the high-end computer market all the time because, we're in that community. But like,
we're enthusiasts.
Yeah, we're enthusiasts. Like, my mom, whenever she wants a laptop, she's like, I have this much money to spend on a new laptop. What can I get for this much money? Because I don't know anything. And thankfully, she has me who can be like, okay, you need this. This will be the best thing for you. But like, if she didn't have me, she'd basically walk into Walmart and go, I have this much money. What can I get? And then she's at their mercy.
Yeah. And you could just hear the dollar signs in the guy's eyes light up because he gets a commission.
Yeah. So I just don't see this working. If by some miracle they figure it out and can actually market it in a way that makes sense to people, it'll be great. But the chances of that happening, I think I've got a more likely chance of an asteroid falling out of the sky and taking out my house.
Well, or you could say that, getting killed by an asteroid, because that hasn't happened in human history.
Right. Okay. So the chances are higher of me getting killed by an asteroid than Microsoft getting this right.
I just look at all the history behind things like this. The only reason why the expansion pack for the N64 worked was that they gave it away free with at least a couple games.
Yeah, Donkey Kong 64 got it, and
pretty sure Perfect Dark had it as well.
Yeah, Perfect Dark had it. I think there was one more game that you bought that the expansion pack came with it. But I don't remember. But, yeah. And Microsoft just can't do that. The expansion pack for the N64 was...
It is a new console, essentially.
For the N64?
Or sorry. You said Microsoft. The expansion pack... for Microsoft would be the new console. Sorry.
Right. I was saying Microsoft can't just give away new consoles. Those are a few $100s. Even their cost is still probably $300 at this point. Maybe $200, but regardless, they can't just give away $200 to everyone who has a console. They would lose money. That's a horrible business practice. And as much as
unless you're Twitter. An article came out today that said Twitter's lost something like $2 billion in
they lose decade. Money. They lose money every quarter. I don't know how they keep going.
Investors.
Investors. But so that's the hardware portion of this. Now the software portion is the unified PC and Xbox One platform.
Oh boy.
Do you want to go first on this one?
It just seems like such a mess. A lot of this is tied into the Windows 10 store, and there was another article that I had listed, which I may put in the show notes just for the hell of it, that is just talking about all the things that are broken in the Windows store. And it acts like an app store.
Oh, it is an app store. It looks like an app store. I mean, it looks like the Google Play Store or the iTunes Store, like the app section of the iTunes Store. That's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah, and that's why I think this other half of the story with the hardware is linked to the more mobile market than it is an actual gaming market, because the Windows 10 store, I will, for full disclosure, I do not have first-person experience with the Windows 10 store. I haven't upgraded my computers yet.
I do. I got a bone to pick with you, Microsoft. I'm going to jump in here and do this.
Okay, go ahead.
Microsoft, I picked a bone with you once before about why I hate Windows 10, because as soon as I connected it to my Windows account, you changed my password. I've since figured out how to change it back, but you changed my password, and I griped about that. You know what else sucks, Microsoft? Every time I click on the Windows button and open it up, you know what's there? The Windows Store, an advertisement for Candy Crush Soda. I don't want Candy Crush Soda. I don't want advertisements in my Windows OS. Now, granted, I know that you did give away Windows 10 for free as an upgrade to people who had Windows 7, but you know what? I purchased Windows 7, and people are going to have to purchase Windows 10 in the future. Well, I don't want ads and my start menu.
Sorry, I was about to say, just paying for something definitely doesn't stop you from seeing ads. I mean, just look at Xbox.
Also, Windows 10. I love Cortana in Halo. I hate Cortana in Windows 10. Cortana replaced the search bar. So, used to, you could go in and you could press, you could type in your file, you could search for it, it'd open up Windows Explorer. No, Cortana doesn't do that. She searches the web, she searches the Microsoft App Store, and then she can't find what you're looking for because you weren't thinking and you went to type in a file name because it was quicker than going and opening up Windows Explorer, typing in the search bar, filtering through the search results. No, she doesn't do that. I hate Windows 10, and I realize I'm going to have to upgrade eventually because Windows 7 will stop being supported. I might as well upgrade while Windows 10 is still free.
Yeah,
but
and the whole
Windows
DirectX 12 thing.
I hate Windows 10. I hate Windows 10. If Microsoft fixes... Honestly, I would be happy if they remove the ads. Part of what this thing does is it shows you, part of it is customizable. You can, since I've got it connected to my Microsoft account, it shows me my last played Xbox games and the last app that I used on my Xbox. It's got some new stuff. It's got, my most used programs over here or my most used apps. All of that's customizable. But this top section where there's ads is not customizable. Take it out, Microsoft.
I'm actually looking at an article right now on how to remove the ads from the start menu.
I was going to say, I'm sure there's a way to do it, and I'm just
it's basically a hidden thing in the personalization menu.
Oh, good. Well, I know what I'm doing after we're done with this.
Yeah, basically in the personalization menu, I'll just tell you right up. Settings, personalization, start, and then flip over the occasionally show suggestions and start menu to the off position, and that turns it off.
Okay.
You may worship me now.
I will worship you. All hail Caffeine Rage. Oh, I feel better getting that off my chest. Oh, also, Windows 10, I hate the way that you do options menus. Stop it. Allow me to turn it back to the way it used to be, or make that setting more easily visible. I get that the average person doesn't have an intimate knowledge of computers. I'm not the average person. I want to easily turn this off. Go back to the way that it used to be.
And here I thought I was going to be the one ranting today.
And we're way off topic, just complaining about Windows 10, or maybe we're not. I don't know. Anyways, I'm done. I'm actually done this time. We can get back to our discussion about unified whatevers.
Yeah, the unified Windows thingy.
The universal Windows application.
It is so messed up. I need to find the list of it, because there was a list of things it didn't do. It doesn't allow easy modding. It is possible to mod games in it still. And there was a... is it one of the links that I have? No, it's not one of the links it has. There's a link in the show notes, which will also be added now. Phil Spencer on Microsoft PC plans. He talks about the moddability of the Windows games. And he makes it very clear that, well, it's a big thing that we're going to support because we own Minecraft. Yeah. I'm serious. It's in the article.
Where is it? You said you put it in the show notes now?
It's I just pasted it.
Oh, I see it. Okay, let me open this up.
Yeah.
They're going to support modding because they own Minecraft.
We obviously own Minecraft. We understand the importance of modding and making sure that we support it in the PC ecosystem is critical to the UWA success.
Yes, I just found where you were reading that. Wow. I mean, I love Phil Spencer in terms of I don't love Phil Spencer, but in terms of the executives that have been in charge of Microsoft over the years, Phil is probably the best.
Doesn't that just make your skin crawl, though?
Sometimes, though, he says things that just get under my skin, and that is one of them.
Yeah, so they are looking at modding because, they own Minecraft, so they kind of have to.
Yeah, Minecraft would fall apart without the mods. I mean, it's a fun game on its own, but the mods are really what make the experience.
Yeah, it is just such a mess, the Windows Store. Another problem of it is that it doesn't support proper full screen. Instead, everything is borderless full screen, which, doesn't sound that bad, but the problem between full screen and borderless full screen is that in full screen mode, and I'm sure I'm probably going to get this wrong and going to generate a lot of letters because we have a lot of tech-savvy people listening. If you've read any of the emails that we've gotten, that's pretty obvious now.
Yeah.
Is that when a game is in borderless full screen, it doesn't have the full focus of the computer. It's still rendering stuff in the background as well. So you're still losing some computing power there. And some of these Windows games that are coming out, some of the new ones, like Rise of the Tomb Raider, or trying to think of the one that released today. It's in the show notes. It's Gears of War Ultimate Edition. Literally came out either today or yesterday. It's very silently came out. These are very demanding games, and losing any computing power is detrimental to that experience.
Right. I'm not super surprised at this. I am surprised at the way they're going about it, but I'm not surprised at the fact that they have brought it under the same kind of roof.
Okay. I found my list. It was under a different article that we didn't add to the show notes. Oh, and I don't really need to because I'm just going to go down the list.
Okay. Let me finish my thought real quick. They did say a while back, I don't remember exactly how long ago it was, maybe 6-8 months ago, that they were going to swap the Xbox over to a Windows 10, a version of the Windows 10 operating system. That way they had their operating systems in line, and it would be easier to make their future cross-platform plans work properly. And this was before they had announced a lot of things. They were just like, yeah, it'll work better with something that we've got coming up. Basically teasing, I'm assuming, this stuff. So I'm not surprised that they are now running on the same type of software, but I am kind of baffled at the way that they've gone about basically shoving the square peg in the round hole.
Yeah, okay, here's the list, okay? This is several things. No SLI or Crossfire support, which has kind of been amended since this article originally came out a bit over a week ago. This was one of the ones I had listed for the episode for last week, but we didn't do it because we did the 0.5 episode instead. We took the Microsoft model before it was a model. Okay, but it will support SLL or Crossfire, but it requires an additional profile to do. So it's a bit weird, especially on games that come out somewhere else plus the Windows Store.
Okay.
So it's going to be a bit behind there unless the graphics cards manufacturers are able to do it all at once. VSync is always on. This is a weird one. Why would you do VSync forced on in this?
Yeah.
Some people don't like VSync. Or it hurts performance if you have a bit of a wobbly frame rate.
Right. And I said that we had a very brief conversation about this yesterday. And I said I like VSync, but I think that it's stupid to force that because there are plenty of people who don't.
And let's see, I already talked about the borderless full screen mode. No modding, which I've also talked about, which the games are protected. Supposedly they're going to be working on that, and they're also supposedly working on the VSync. But I will say this, is that I don't trust Microsoft when they say that they're working on something, because they've said for the last decade that PC gaming they're going to put a new focus on it. They're going to support it properly, and this is not supporting it properly.
Well,
this is supporting it. This isn't supporting it properly. There's a difference.
Okay. I was going to say, they're definitely putting a new focus on it, and they're definitely supporting it.
Yeah, but they're supporting it like an app store.
Yeah, they're going about it in a very ham-fisted manner.
Yeah, and gamers are so pissed off at mobile ports. Can you imagine a complete storefront that's a mobile port?
Yeah, I can, actually. And I don't want that. I already have to deal with the mobile app store on my iPad and on my Galaxy Note 3. I don't want to have to deal with that for my PC games. Okay,
next on the list, no overlays. So recording software like Fraps, this has also been admitted that it is possible to get the overlays to work, but it's tricky to do. It requires some interesting things.
Does it?
Sorry. I was going to say it requires some hackery, and I lost the article that talked about how you got it working, but it was very involved to do. It could have been changed, though.
Does it say that the new Windows 10 game overlay system works? Or is it no overlays, period?
This just says no overlays. You can't use your overlays or any software with the game. You can't get a Steam overlay or any other type of overlay. Software like Fraps for recording your screen and tracking your frame rate won't work either. That's is literally all it says.
Which is awful. I don't play games without a frame rate counter up.
Well, this ties into it. Actually, they don't say it on here, but you don't get an exe file with a Windows store install. Oh, it's tied into the Windows Explorer, and the reason why this is a problem is that you can't add it to your Steam library. So that Steam controller that you got, it requires the Steam overlay to work to be able to do custom profiles.
Right.
Forget about it for any Windows store.
I assume, and again, this is an assumption because they didn't give us a full picture of the information. I assume that they're doing this to push the new Windows 10 gaming overlay, which right now is crappy. It's really bad. It's choppy. It locks up half the time whenever you open it. It doesn't record things. Like, you've got minimal options for recording things. It's kind of like the ham-fisted system that they have on the Xbox One console, which is meant to take, like, really quick snapshot recordings. Like, it runs kind of like Shadow Play. It's always in the background, just recording the last however many minutes of footage. I think on the Xbox you can set it up to 5 minutes.
Wow, 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes. Just enough time to capture, like, something that might be cool. But anyways, I think that it's running kind of like that because it has a similar level of options, except you can set it to run for more time. But it's just not good in its current state. I don't know if it's something that they intend to improve or if they consider it a final release product, but there are so many other programs I've used as, like, software recording. I'm not talking about using like a capture card.
Yeah.
Just a software option for recording that are better.
Yeah,
XSplit.
Yeah, like I said, this has been admitted somewhat that you are able to get software like Fraps to work, but it requires some trickery.
Yeah. So I assume that they're doing that to try and push the Windows game overlay experience or whatever it is that it's called. But it's crap. So unless they fix it, they're just shooting themselves in the foot. They shot themselves in the right foot with all of the decisions they're making, like no exe files and all of the weird stuff they're doing with the sword.
There's other things that they've shot themselves on the foot on that I haven't even gotten to. That isn't on this list, by the way. How about no direct input support? The only thing that works is mouse and keyboard and Xbox controllers.
X input.
Yeah, X input. Yeah. Now, the reason why this is a problem is that they have Tekken coming out or came out. I'm not sure which. And it's going to be a free-to-play game. But a lot of fighting controllers use a direct input. So, all those hitboxes and fighting sticks, not going to work. And let's be perfectly honest. The Xbox controller sucks for fighting games. And there are ways around it. You could use XPad. Total Biscuit talked about it in his Street Fighter V video, which has actually the same problem. It doesn't support a direct input, which is just weird.
But it works on Sony consoles, which use direct input.
Yeah. It's so weird why they would do that.
I wonder if they're emulating X input for Sony consoles, or if they just only coded that into the PlayStation version of the game. Either way,
or the support for the direct input didn't make the cut because there's so much content for Street Fighter V that's post-launch DLC or patching.
Right, they just cut it out. This isn't ready right now. We'll just cut that out. But that's a completely different topic.
Yeah, but pretty much any fighting stick or gamepad or really any peripheral that doesn't work in Street Fighter will not work with a Windows 10 store game.
So Xbox shot themselves in each toe,
then
each finger, then each foot, and then they've put the gun to their temple now.
No, here's where they pull the trigger on the temple. Forza is coming out for PC, finally. It's going to be a free-to-play game. There's a red flag.
Oh, there was a red flag in the last one, but I'll talk about Forza 5 in a minute. Go ahead and finish.
It has no multiplayer outside of leaderboards. And that's cocking the hammer on the gun. And where they blow their brains out, no wheel support.
Okay, so Forza 6 being free-to-play. Actually, I'm kind of happy about this.
Supposedly, this is supposed to be a technical demo trying to figure out what they need to do for a future PC version. So I will give them that.
I'm not going to give them that pass.
I'm giving them a slight pass, a very slight pass. But they're still down 2 and 9/10 of a strike.
I still love Forza the game because it's just such a technically superior game. It really is a great racing game all around. Physics, looks, the feel of speed, cockpit view, the atmosphere that they create around the cars. Forza as a game is wonderful. And thank God it is, because in Forza 5, it just all fell apart with microtransactions. They were caught messing with the in-game economy to promote the microtransactions to buy the cars. They had some really crappy DLC practices on Forza 5 with content that was cut and put back in later, and just all of the scummy stuff. Forza 5 did it, and if it wasn't for the fact that Forza 5 was such a good game, I would have been done with them. And so me seeing Forza 6 as a free-to-play game is actually a good thing in my mind, because they were already messing with the game, trying to encourage microtransactions. So at least I don't have to pay for it now with them trying to convince me to buy microtransactions.
Yeah, all 3 of the major releases that they are either coming out or came out that they talked about at this Windows conference, or either have messes or potential for it. Forza is free to play, single player only, no wheel support. Killer Instinct, free to play, no direct input. Oh, and here's something I forgot to mention. Ported by Iron Galaxy Studios. You don't know them? Arkham Knight port.
I was going to say, I don't know who that is, but now I know who that is.
And Gears of War Ultimate Edition, it's out now, but it is a complete clusterfuck on AMD graphics cards. Artifacting all over the place. It shouldn't have been out. It's worse than some of the Unity bugs I saw when it released.
Yeah, the screenshots they've got for it on this article are terrible. Like, that's unplayable.
So, Microsoft, get your shit together. Steam does need competition. It desperately needs competition. But you're making Uplay look good.
Nah, I wouldn't go that far.
Uplay is at least a PC-centric game shop. It doesn't feel like a mobile, a port of a mobile shop. It's not completely full of ports from old mobile games. Yeah, well, granted, Steam is, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, I just hate Uplay. I hate Uplay more than I'm disappointed in Microsoft right now.
Wow,
that's basically what I'm saying.
That's a lot.
I hate Uplay. I hate Uplay with a passion. You don't understand how much I hate Uplay.
It's not on the topic list, but Ubisoft having to fight off a hostile takeover. I'm sure you were loving that.
Oh, yeah. Happy days.
Yeah, and the only reason why we're not talking about that is that I'm not sure about you, but I don't understand enough behind-the-scenes stuff to be able to really talk about it. So it'd be more just pointing and laughing and eating popcorn.
Which we do plenty of that, but we knew that this week was going to be a long show, so...
And I tweeted out last week it was going to probably be a long episode.
Yeah. I've already done plenty... Well, not pointing and laughing, but pointing and yelling at Microsoft. Everyone's going to think that... Everyone must think right now that I had an awful trip. I had a great trip. I'm just...
Boy, he has his cranky pants on.
The thing is that like Microsoft is a company that I have backed for years. Like, you know, I've given Microsoft the benefit of the doubt for a long time because they were my platform of choice. And I was a Microsoft fan for a long time. I never got into that like fanboyism stuff where I was like yelling at people because they bought a PlayStation 3 or whatever. But
where you're high on Mountain Dew and Doritos.
Well,
does supporting Microsoft count if I bought Windows and have an Xbox 360 controller from like a decade ago?
I don't know, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a year on this, and there's a list of hieroglyphics. Does that count?
But so I've been a fan of Microsoft for a long time, and Xbox in particular. And I've given them the benefit of the doubt, And I still like the Xbox One. I still like the hardware platform, and I still, I'm not going to take my Xbox and chuck it out the window. But like at this point, I'm done giving Microsoft the benefit of the doubt. I think that most of these decisions are stupid, and unless they actually make them work, I'm going to be frustrated with them for a while. Also, Windows 10 sucks, and I hate it. So, yeah, there's that. Anyways, unless you have anything else to say, I think we're ready to move on and talk about video game reviews.
Yeah, just get your shit together, Microsoft. This is tiresome. I look at it this way. They need to come up with a brand new name outside of Microsoft, or sorry, not Microsoft, but Xbox One. Because using my naming scheme isn't going to work, because it didn't work for the Wii U.
No, it did not.
So, game reviews. Oh, this is going to be a fun one as well.
So this is was this a blog post or an article? I don't remember.
This was a article on Forbes, which I am probably going to be linking to an archive of, because Forbes has this whole thing about blocking people that are using ad blocker software just completely. And then Forbes immediately had a problem with one of their ads downloading malware.
Nice. So yeah, we'll get you we'll get you guys a proper copy. But anyway, so the article is titled "Video Games Are Broken, Reviews Are Broken, and Things Have to Change." And this is centered around the release of Street Fighter V, where that basically, in a nutshell, review outlets were giving it pretty decent reviews.
They link to they have the screenshot of the Metascore. It's an 82 on a Metascore from 34 critics total, and then the user score is 4.0 out of 10. So yeah, pretty wide disparity there, and this isn't the first time this has happened.
Right,
and this is mostly linked to, well, first of all, the lack of content, which we alluded to earlier, but also the fact that it was utterly broken on launch. The servers just, once again, didn't work. It was an always online game that had server problems. Right. We've seen this in Diablo. We've seen this in SimCity. What were some other ones that we've seen? I mean, MMOs just in general.
Halo, the Master Chief Collection. In fact, I think its multiplayer is still broken. It's been out for over a year. They just kind of pushed it under the rug and moved on to Halo 5. What was the racing game on PlayStation that was supposed to be free? Drive Club.
Drive Club. That's right.
The online was broken on Drive Club. Well, it is broken indefinitely. As far as I know, they still haven't released the free version of it because the online is so borked. I'm sure there's been plenty of others, but those are just the ones that come to mind right off the bat.
And this article talks about the disparity between the review copy of the game, where viewers are given basically a free sandbox to play these games in. You know, all the online components are either disabled, so they, talk about what it could be or should be based on what they see, or they're playing on a server that has a very fraction of the population that would have at launch and just gets overloaded.
Right. I think, okay, so we've talked about reviews, I think, briefly a couple of times before.
Oh, yeah.
Both of us used to review games.
Yeah, I will admit that the site I reviewed on was a little bit more shady. It wasn't as upfront of as it should have been. I was a reviewer that actually played the games, but they suggested that, you just need to write about the game and don't have to actually play it. Yeah.
Right. We were on I wrote for a small but legit site. We did mostly indie games, and played the games and wrote about the games that we played. And we were always upfront about, disclosure, even before that was a thing that people talked about. Like, we received this game for free. This game was offered to us as part of a promotion or whatever.
Disclosure. Who needs that? Just write about your friends.
Right. So whenever I wrote reviews, I did not use scores. I refused to use a score because I don't believe in the scoring system for video games. I believe in scoring systems for movies, books, other forms of entertainment, but it doesn't work for video games because video games are interactive. So not only do you have the presentation of the thing, like a movie or a book, but you also have the interaction with the thing. And so the interaction can change your experience from person to person, from hardware to hardware, because the game story might be amazing. It might be, Shakespearean level of quality, but if playing the game is like rubbing nails or like gouging your eyes out with nails, then, I don't really care how good the story is. The game's garbage.
Oh, well, we talked about this briefly, like the golf game. I was expecting a golf game and got a bunch of stories. So, something I wasn't expecting. So if I was actually reviewing the game, I may rate it lower because, I didn't go in to get a story. I was, wanting to play golf.
Right. And so a review score works better for something like a movie, where that even though people could have a different interpretation of the movie, people can like different genres, the movie will always play exactly the same way every time. So you can read, a few different styles of reviews and get an idea of what's going on. A video game, on average, probably has dozens, if not hundreds, of different ways it can be played and enjoyed or hated, depending on how it works with hardware. So I hate review scores. I wish that a flat number score would just be thrown out altogether.
Yeah, but then you don't get that nice little segment at the end where, you have the numbers branded onto the article and, like 2 or 3 sentences.
I wish that reviews worked the way that I used to write them. I would write a review that was, anywhere between 1,000 and 5,000 words, depending on how long the game was, how complex it was, that sort of thing. Then at the end, I had basically a little summary paragraph that was like...
Too long didn't read?
Yeah, a TLDR that was basically, yes, I enjoyed the game, or no, I didn't enjoy a game. Here's a couple of bullet points why. Here's how much it costs right now. Do I think it's worth the cost personally? And if your views line up with mine, you'll probably like it. And if they don't, I hope that you take my review into consideration, but you might want to look around a little bit more. And I never gave a game a score. It was either, I think it's worth it or I don't think it's worth it. And if your views line up with mine or not. And I actually had the most well-read, trafficked articles on the site out of all the reviewers, which at our peak, there were 4 of us that reviewed.
Yeah, the site that I reviewed for, there was like 2 or 3, not including myself. But we didn't get the brightest of traffic. A little digression, just to give you an idea. It was 2010 or 2011, I can't remember which. And I was to write about the top 100 or so games of the first decade of the new millennium. And I set a very specific start date. I'm basing this off of the North American release date. It had to release after January 1st, 2000. Yeah. Pretty ironclad there, right? You would think nobody would complain about that, right?
You would think so, but I'm sure there were lots of people.
The only Final Fantasy game at the time that I could put in there, it was before Final Fantasy X came out, or I probably put Final Fantasy X a bit lower. Because it definitely, Final Fantasy X to me wasn't that great. But that's getting off topic. So the only Final Fantasy game I put on the list was Final Fantasy IX, and I said that it barely made the cut because of its release date. And I had person after person after person wanting to crucify me because I didn't put Final Fantasy VII on the list.
Nice. We, as an aside, we should have a topic where we just discuss the Final Fantasy games. Because I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy. I've played.
I haven't played Final Fantasy in a while. I played the silent era of Final Fantasy on the PlayStation.
I played Final Fantasy all the way up to the most recent MMO. Is it Final Fantasy 14? I guess I missed both MMOs. I didn't play Final Fantasy 11 either. But I missed a couple of the early ones, and then I played every Final Fantasy game from 6 up except for the MMOs.
Well, I put it on the list.
All right. Fancy. Anyways, so, yeah. Video game reviews are broken. If we could somehow come up with some unified score that everyone agreed on...
What, that's not the Metacritic score?
Metacritic scores are awful. Jim Sterling has got on his actual website, the jimquisition.com, he likes to do from time to time an article called Meta Bombing, where he'll pick a new release that's kind of a divisive release and pull up like Metacritic scores where people are giving it 0 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 for the most arbitrary and stupid reasons, and he makes fun of them. It's great. Because it'll be things like, I'm giving this game a 0 out of 10 because it doesn't have a black protagonist.
Oh, boy.
Or it's like,
that's something else that we could probably talk about at some point.
Yeah, we should.
I'm trying to think, the social justice warrior incursion.
SJWs. Fun times right there. Knew plenty of them in college. But, we're like, I'm giving this game a 10 out of 10 because I think too many people have given it, 0 out of 10s, and it should have a higher score.
It's not on Metacritic, but I saw one for a game that was highly rated, and I went over to the negative reviews just to see what was there. And the top rated, most helpful negative review was, while you look in the negative reviews, buy this game. I'm serious. That's what it said.
Wow. Nice. So yeah, reviews are broken. I think that so this guy goes on for a little bit in this article about how that game reviewers shouldn't have given Street Fighter V as high a score as they did until the game, like they shouldn't have given it a score until the game released, because it came out and it was broken, and it actually should have had lower scores than they gave it. And there is some merit, I think, in waiting to release the game and taking that into consideration. But at the same time, I don't know. How do you feel about there being some review, regardless of how... I'm hesitant to use the term how accurate it is. But, a review that comes out before the game actually releases. Like, that's becoming, sadly, more and more rare these days.
That is the common thing now. The problem is that game reviews a lot of times are more marketing than review nowadays.
Yeah. That's a fair point. There's lots of sites that do game reviews like marketing and that take deals. I mean, what was the most recent Lord of the Rings?
GameSpot first content or whatever they call it, where they get exclusives.
Yeah,
and GameSpot. You know that there has to be some sort of deal going on there. I'm not going to call it scummy per se, but it's questionable.
Right. GameSpot and Eurogamer are probably the two worst for that. I mean, lots of sites do it. They're not the only ones, but I feel like they come up the most in headlines, like questioning their ethics and like, was this like a sellout type thing? But I guess it's becoming harder and harder to trust reviews that come from the bigger review sites. I mean, most of the reviews
that's really the problem.
The thing is, for me, when it comes to game reviews anymore, I used to go to Joystick and GameSpot and a couple of other sites that have gone over the years to look at reviews for games. And now I go to Total Biscuit, Jim Sterling, Laura Kate, Jesse Cox, and just the list goes on. And there's smaller ones too, but I'm just like picking names that most people will probably know, and it's like I go to those people to find their review content, and I don't care if it comes out before the game or after the game, because I don't mind a wait. And that's happening more and more. That's probably what's causing the shift anyways, making reviews less about review and more about marketing, because these big game review sites, these big game review sites are losing money because everyone's migrating to YouTube, where they can find personalities they like. It's more convenient. They feel like they get more in-depth reviews and better work, and et cetera, et cetera. And these big companies are going, oh, we're losing money hand over fist. If we don't do something, we're going to be gone. And you've seen lots of them go over the last few years. Game Trailers
shut down pretty recently. And a lot of their reviews came out a lot later, but it was also video reviews. But they also shifted their content a lot over to YouTube at some point, which cost them viewers on the main site, which cost them ad revenue. Granted, a lot of people are running ad blocker now for good reason. Like I talked about on Forbes, they force you to not use ad blocker, then immediately infect you with the malware infested ad like a week or two after they put that into force.
Right.
So it's actually the smart thing to use ad blocker these days.
But so the industry is changing, and these companies are trying to keep up, and I kind of get where they're coming from, trying to keep up, but at the same time, like, they're just going about it in all the wrong ways. They're approaching a new media problem with an old media solution, and it's costing them, and it's going to keep costing them. I mean, this article on Forbes is not the only. It's not the first, and it's not the only one to call game reviewing sites out for this. And I doubt it will be the last.
Yeah, there is a serious problem with game reviews, and I'm not 100% sure how to fix it. Just because, like I talked about, is that they are in their own little sandbox. When they review a free-to-play game, they're given a bunch of stuff. They can't really talk about the experience of someone that's going in and maybe putting in a couple bucks. They're given hundreds of dollars worth of stuff to be able to test out everything.
Right.
Which, there is room for that as well, but I almost want to say that there needs to be, I can't really call it a grace period and say to put reviews after the game launches. Because, well, the whole pre-order thing, once again, rears its ugly head, and you're taking information away from people that are trying to make a smart buying decision, even though they're doing pre-orders for some reason.
Let's stop for 1 second and remember the first commandment of video game logic is thou shalt not pre-order video games.
I'm tempted to try to rip Total Biscuit's you shall not pre-order video games, but that would probably get us in trouble.
Well, we don't monetize this show. I don't think.
I'm monetizing on my channel.
Yeah, fair point. I'm monetizing on my channel too. All right, never mind. We monetize the show. Yeah, we'd get in trouble for that. But, okay, I'm a big consumer rights activist. I think that consumers deserve more than they get. So it pains me a little bit to say this, but honestly, I think that this is the consumer's fault. Because most consumers buy into the culture. They buy into the pre-order culture. They buy into the
DLC.
They buy into microtransactions, and they keep perpetuating this. Be smarter consumers. I mean, yes, we deserve more, and we deserve better, but we have to stand up for ourselves. How entitled of you.
Well, that really ties... actually, I joke when I say how entitled of you, but that really ties into the whole problem with games media, is that it is not for us. It is a mouthpiece of the developers, of the publishers. Because remember, way back when Mass Effect 3 was having its big kerfuffle over the ending, and site after site after site was talking about how entitled the gamers were, how it was bad of us to demand a resolution that actually lived up to all the hype that they were talking about, how all our decisions mattered. That tells you
what's your favorite color.
Yeah, that tells you right there exactly who games media works for. It is not for us.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, so I won't get into it again. But consumers are entitled to what they've been promised. And when consumers don't get what they've been promised, they do deserve to either get what they've been promised or be allowed to complain and stand up for themselves and say, hey, you told me I was going to get this and I didn't get it, and that's not cool. So, thou shalt not pre-order video games.
Even with a huge discount, it's hard for me to recommend pre-ordering any video game unless it's part of your job or maybe hobby to put it on YouTube. And that's doing it release day.
Yeah.
If you're not playing that game release day, wait.
I mean, that's what I do. 2 or 3 games on my list for the games I was most excited for this year have came out, and I've waited and watched the reviews and read up on them. And you know what? I haven't bought any of them yet because none of them lived up to my expectations so far. Not that they look bad or that they seem bad, but they didn't give me what I wanted. And so, I will buy them eventually when the price is right and when I'm ready. But
come on down.
Nice. But, I waited. I made a smart consumer decision, and I did not pre-order the game for the 10% bonus because, honestly, I would be disappointed. And also, I'd be a hypocrite because I would be breaking commandment number 1, thou shalt not pre-order video games. I like having commandments. We should find another one in the nearest future.
Thou shalt send us money?
Thou shalt support us. That's commandment number 2. Monetarily
Well, you were
support us.
joking about, I'm not sure if it was joking or not, but talking about Patreon, but then we would have to send Biff royalties, right?
We shall not pay royalties. No, I was serious about Patreon. I want to set one up for us and just see what happens. I mean, hey, if they want to give us money, don't let me stop them. Let me give you all the avenues that I can for you guys to give us money. Oh, and sponsors. Sponsors out there, I'm willing to sell my soul. What have I got sitting next to me to sponsor this week? Oh, I was recently rereading World War Z. Today's podcast is brought to you by World War Z, an oral history of the zombie war.
Well, fine, then I guess I'll do one. Whoppers of Molten Milk Balls.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Whopper. Who makes Whoppers? Is it Milky Way? Or not Milky Way, Hershey?
Hershey.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Hershey Chocolate. Good.
Hey, I need a sugar boost to get me through all the Eve stuff. What can I say?
Yeah, well, it's time for your salt boost, unless you've got anything else to say. I can't wait to hear your rant about Spintires.
Oh, boy. Well, this also ties into why you called me the saltiest pretzel today. Because I came up with the term pretzel article. This ties me into a knot, and it covers me with a ton of salt. This came out literally just before we started recording. This has been going on a couple of days, and something that I hadn't caught wind of. And an article came out literally when I was shutting things down to start recording. Spintires is broken because of a... what's the word for it? Hissy fit between the publisher and the developer.
Hissy fit. That's an apt description, but just hearing you use the word hissy fit is brilliant. Do continue.
Okay, well, let's go down a brief summary that I found on Reddit of the timeline of events. Basically, the developer made a contract with the publisher, okay, and didn't get as much money as he wanted. So he starts bad-mouthing the publisher. The publisher starts talking to the developer only through lawyers. So the developer adds a time bomb to the game to trigger on a certain date in late February, it might add, of this year, 2016. Nobody at the publisher catches it because I guess they're too stupid to actually check the code, of someone they pissed off. So now the game automatically crashes when it starts. And you could prove that this is a time bomb and not, just some random bug in a patch by changing your calendar. If you send it back to 2014, game works perfectly. I do not care about the drama between the developer and the publisher, all right? That is their own little spat. But the moment you start fucking me over, it becomes my problem.
Do you continue?
The fact that you are screwing over your customer base, it's not shooting yourself in the foot. It's shooting yourself in the goddamn head. Oh, and by the way, put away the kids because I'm about to get... Oh, well, I've already gotten really salty.
maybe we'll break out some bleepage up in this bit. Just start bleeping you out. I can falsely censor you and just see what results people come up with.
Unnecessary censorship?
I love unnecessary censorship. That's such a funny thing. Is it Jimmy Kimmel that does that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's actually a subreddit for it as well.
Ooh, I should go check out that subreddit sometime. Anyways, carry on.
Screwing yourself or screwing your customer base over is just screwing yourself over in the end. And I don't care how much the publisher is screwing you over. I don't care how much the developer is screwing the publisher over. The fact that it's spilled over to the complete player base, to the fact that there's at least a couple pages on the Spintires Steam forums about game crashing and how to fix it is inexcusable. I don't care what is going on between you two.
I can't wait to see the legal battle that comes from this, because that dev who pitched the hissy fit is about to get his pants sued off.
Oh, I can't wait to see Steam respond to this.
I can't wait to listen to Jim Sterling and Total Biscuit talk about it in their upcoming podcast this week.
Yeah, let's see. I'm clicking through the Steam forums and looks like I'm on the third page, still getting people talking about crashes. Fourth page. Part of this is in, I think, Russian, so it's hard for me to read. And it looks like he's actively breaking. There's a fan that's gone through and figured out how to fix this, by the way, and he's actively breaking that. It's so ridiculous.
Oh, man.
This is one of the worst things I've heard of indie dev do. I've never heard of a developer actively killing their game because of their publisher. This is the level of something I would expect from Phil Fish.
Phil Fish are the guys over at Digital Homicide.
Speaking of homicide, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm kind of a lost for words on this just because of how idiotic it's been. I did a quick research just before we started recording, and just hearing people try to figure out what to do with this, just because I don't think anybody could have fathomed this happening.
You just don't expect grown-ups, adults to act that way. Like, you expect a temper tantrum pitching 10-year-old to cut his nose off to spite his face. You don't expect a grown man to do it.
Yeah, and I did check this, and I checked it with my version. Remember, I talked about playing Spintires a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And, it does it for me. So I've confirmed that this isn't just some random story. This is something that is happening.
Yeah, I'm checking through all of, I don't know, the big name game people on Twitter that I follow, and nobody's mentioned it so far.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. The article that I have in the show notes is literally the first thing I've seen about it.
I'm sure it'll get picked up pretty soon, and we'll start hearing about it. And I can't wait to hear the juicy crosstalk from people like Total Biscuit, Jim Sterling. Bet the Rooster Teeth guys will pick this up.
Yeah, it comes off as unprofessional, and I realize that indie gaming is the Wild West of PC. But
I mean, that guy just tanked his career. He's done. He will never get another game development job again. But
then again,
all over a contract dispute.
Yeah, but who knows? I mean, Ubisoft makes a a marketing plan of screwing over their consumer year after year, and they still sell plenty of copies. So who knows? Maybe he's onto something.
Maybe he'll start working for Ubisoft. And make a great team screwing over their customers with stupid decisions. Like Uplay. Uplay's probably a time bomb.
Uplay's just a bomb.
Actively exploding. 24/7, 365. I mean, I don't really have anything to add other than what I've said. I don't play Spintires. It's on my wish list. Eventually I'm going to buy it.
I would hold off now.
I was going to say, although obviously I'm not going to buy it right now. At least not until they get it fixed.
Yeah, but there is a fix out there. I'm not going to post it in the show notes just because the guy, the first guy that posted a fix actually got banned on the official forums as well. Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
Well, yep. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, this is more like a PSA and me blowing off some steam because I'm annoyed.
Yeah. I'm going to go get a glass of wine and some popcorn and just watch the Spintires community burn to the ground for a while.
Yeah, and this isn't the first time that there's been a little bit of kerfuffle. There was talking about them stopping development because the dev had all the basically the keys to the kingdom for Spintires, and the publisher and him were fighting back then. But, you would expect, at most, development stop. But, it's still a pretty fleshed out game. And it had the ability to make custom maps. So, you wouldn't expect the fighting to spill over to the point where you couldn't play the game. Unless it's like an always online thing. And Spintires is not.
Right.
Just inexcusable.
Need to go get my... Shoot, what's his name from the most recent Mad Max movie? The guy with the crazy mask is mediocre.
Mediocre doesn't even begin to describe this.
No, but it's the first thing that popped into my mind. So, does that wrap us up for our
I think so.
news and articles and pouty
unless you have
ranty
anything to
periods?
add. Have you ever heard of anything even similar to this?
No, I've never heard of anything this bad happening anywhere before. I mean, we've even talked on here about, what was it, Ant Simulator or whatever, them falling apart, and there's been some other indie dev
Yeah, but that was even
apart,
released at the time.
Yeah, but that's what I was about to say. This games falling apart has happened before, but normally it's in pre-release, alpha,
maybe early access.
Yeah, maybe early access. But
there's several creators covering early access games that just die off.
But this is a game that has released and has been successful and has
been sabotaged.
Yeah, and it has been actively sabotaged post-launch.
I've never heard of anything even close to this.
Nope.
It's mind-boggling.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
And some men just pour gasoline over themselves and light a match. And that's what this guy's done.
He took his career, poured gas on it, and then blew it up.
And honestly, I would say the publisher with it, because how would they miss this? You would think that they piss off the guy, they'd be checking everything.
No, they're lazy and they're cheap. I mean, we had this discussion, well, not this exact discussion, but a similar vein discussion a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about when Durante fixed a game in 14 minutes. It's like game companies games publishers just don't care. They don't want to spend money if they don't have to. And they were like, nah, we're not going to spend money on this guy. Who cares that we made him mad? He'll not do anything dumb.
I'm going to sound like such an elitist jerk on this.
Okay.
But it feels like gaming has gotten too big, that it's gotten too mainstream. When it was a lot more niche, you would have a lot more passion projects. You would have the developers and the publishers putting effort in because they cared about their projects. It wasn't just the bottom line anymore.
Yeah, I disagree.
Okay, well, I shouldn't say it wasn't just money. There was passion behind a lot of projects as well.
Well,
there was still money in the obviously in the equation.
I think that the games industry has some problems because of how big it is.
There's a lot of people saying that video games need to grow up, and I disagree. Video game industry needs to grow up, and I'm including video game media in that.
Yeah. The industry has some problems, growing pains from becoming, in a relatively short span of time, the largest entertainment industry in the world. But
in my lifetime, it's gone from literally nothing to the biggest entertainment industry out there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that games like Dear Esther and Firewatch and Gone Home could exist without the industry being as big as it is now. Or maybe they would exist, but they wouldn't be the same kinds of games that they are now. So I think that the industry being huge has got some benefits, but it's also got some problems. So it walks a fine line.
Yeah, and in this point, it slipped off the line and caught itself in the throat.
It tripped on the tripwire. It set off the trap.
It ate too many jalapenos, and now it burns.
Ooh. It got the spicy stuff from Taco Bell, and now it's having a bad night. Going back to our toilet analogy.
The flamethrower.
Oh. Well, on that note, I think that's a good transitionary point from articles and discussions to our community couch this week. Our community love seat.
Oh, my.
And we managed to stay relatively close to time, actually. We're at 2
but
hours
we're going to go over in this part.
Oh, yeah, we will. But we're at 2 hours and 4 minutes pre-editing, so we'll be close to the 2 hour mark at this point.
So shall we take this in order that we received?
Sure. We'll start with the one from Supe from last week.
Yeah,
that we did.
This was the one that we skipped over just because it was partly because it was a novel and we were trying to just get a short episode out because our shrink was going out of town for a while.
Yeah, I was leaving you guys for a while. Let's see.
How do we tackle this?
Do you want to try and summarize?
Yeah, I think we have to summarize because there's no way we're going to read this. All right. Hey there, guys. Okay, that's it. Sorry. Sorry for the lack of letter. Sorry for the lack of a letter since my last. Took one look at the length of the episode following it and realized that I needed to negotiate shorter hours at work to catch up. Just about to finish episode 8, though, so he's actually caught up at this point. So we'll be ready for the next, and thought I'd better get you an email in quick, as I think you'll be due to record a new episode in the next day or two. Boy, was he right.
Yeah, he was.
I'm glad you reduced the length a bit. I enjoy the podcast, but they have gotten pretty massive. Oh, well, sorry about this episode then. And I think I think much of that was only due to some really extreme digression and an occasional dead air while you were looking some things up. So that was editing problems, and that's on you.
That is on me. And like I said, I'm working on improving it. They're
still long, but they seem a little tidier and are easier to listen to. I enjoyed the discussions, though, so keep going.
There went my phone. I never put it on silent. And on to the next paragraph. I'll read this one. Glad to hear that Blug, not sure on the spelling there, is another Linux user. I should have remembered to give a shout out to the Gaming on Linux site, as that is a regular haunt of mine. I'm eager to see what comes with Vulkan, as there are a lot of updates coming out in the moment, with game engines being updated to work with it, and the Steam beta client receiving a massive amount of patches related to Vulkan preparation for Linux. I'm hoping that Star Citizen realizes its promise and ports over, though they have made it clear they will be doing it in DirectX 12 first, then going to Vulkan. Maybe we could get a VGL Kerbalcast organization underway.
I'm still not sold on Star Citizen, to be honest. I'm not going to say that I think it's a scam like some people have claimed, but it seems too good to be true.
It still doesn't work for me, so I don't know. It's another thing. It's broken. Somehow Windows 10, it's your fault.
Yeah, I think it's going to take 5 years, and then I'll give you my idea on what I think of Star Citizen. And it's probably going to require a brand new computer on my part, to be perfectly frank.
Right.
Okay, then there's a massive paragraph.
Are you going
to... we probably should summarize this one, because this is quite a long one.
Okay, I got this. So then he goes on to say, when you guys discussed Linux, Caffeine made a comment about no platform exclusivity on PC. However, if you don't follow Linux Matters, what you may have missed is that Microsoft had tried hard to kill other OS's use through the UEFI secure boot system. Back when Windows 8 was coming out, it was discovered that Microsoft was arranging deals with vendors to lock machines down, so they would only be able to boot if they were using a Windows 8 signed certificate. He goes on to discuss the technicalities of this a little bit more. Then he wraps all of that up with, if my wall of text hasn't killed him already, Caffeine is going to black out with the next bit, Eve. You may not want
that's
to
why I have
this.
the Whoppers. A little bit of sugar to keep me from crashing.
He says you may not want to include this. It's more for Shrink anyways. Now, we're going to do with this what we've done with our other massive wall of text letters is take out the identifying information and then post them along with the show notes.
Yeah, which there's not a lot of identifying information here.
No, there's not. But I'm just going to go down through this a little bit and talk back at a couple of points. So the first thing he says, I'm actually going to read this because it's short. It says, I already tweeted, but I was so happy to hear that Shrink had made the trip to the dark side of Eve so quickly. If the corp was really that awful, looting seems like the only right way to proceed. You're right that Eve is a cutthroat world. As my game time in there, I saw so many dodgy deals, thefts, betrayals, etc. Yeah. And as I, said earlier in the show, there's some more dodginess going on that I'm washing my hands clean of.
And I'm having a donut.
I would be lying if I didn't say that, or if I said that I didn't enjoy looting the corporation. I have to say I can see why people would want to make a career of joining corporations, gaining their trust, and then looting them blind. It has an appeal. All right, let's read the next part.
And the only reason why I'm not trying to summarize this is a lot of this, I know some of these words.
Yeah, you know some of these words. You know that they're words.
Yeah, I've heard of wormhole before.
So he goes on to talk a little bit about just all of the things that he's done, being in corporations and alliances and stuff, and how quickly they can rise and fall. Back in the early days of EVE, at the time, one of the biggest alliances was called Band of Brothers. And Band of Brothers disappeared within a span of like 3 minutes. There was a guy who got in Band of Brothers. He got up to the highest level, like he had CEO level authority, and he disbanded the corp.
Wow.
Like, that was how they took down the biggest alliance in EVE. Not a battle, not a war, not even like back and forth espionage.
A spy.
One spy clicked the button, disband corporation. And in the blink of an eye, EVE space changed. And those changes are still affecting the game today. The Goon Squad is still one of the main alliances that participated in that, taking over all of Band of Brothers territory. So yeah, corporations can rise and fall overnight. It's ridiculous how in-depth the game can get.
And it's kind of crazy to me because in the MMOs I played, that would get GM interference.
Nope, that's encouraged in EVE. As long as you don't actually cheat, like doing something to modify the code or illegally, like performing some kind of illegal action in the game.
Duping things.
Yeah. You're basically encouraged to be a dick in EVE. Like, the sorts of things that would get you banned in other games are like, yeah, so deal with it.
Yeah, and this is why I love reading about EVE and somewhat enjoy hearing about it. But I will never play EVE.
I will say, Supe, that your terms are still good. On-grid is still a thing that people say, although the grid has been a little more standardized now because of server changes, and particularly a big recent changeover where they upgraded to new server hardware and a different server architecture, which has caused the game to be down a number of times over the last few days. It's been so bad that they're giving all of the players 200,000 free skill points, which is a fair amount. If you're a high-level player, it's not that much, but to someone like me, 200K is a pretty large amount to just get dumped into your skill queue. But yeah, on grid and all of that still applies, but the grid has been more standardized to reflect 150 kilometer cube, and very rarely does anything outside of that cube now appear on grid. Actually, no, it's not a cube, it's now a sphere. Really interesting stuff. So yeah, I will say that I read the rest of your letter, but yeah, like Rage said, he understands that some of these things are words. But I hope you don't get divorced, because based on your tweets, it seems you're coming back to play. And when you join, just put that in one of your letters, and I'll make sure.
You are a family therapist, so
yeah, there we go. I'll fix your family, and I'll invite you to the corporation that I'm in now.
And how many ISKRs is this going to cost you?
Well, if he joins the corp, it'll be free. Corp benefits. But if he doesn't join the corp, let's say 100 million ISK an hour. That's a steal. But that wraps it up for a letter from Supe.
Supe.
All right, down the list.
Yeah, now we have an audio letter.
Yes, we do. Enjoy.
Greetings everybody, Kmis here again. Apologies for skipping a week, but there simply was nothing I felt like I could add to the discussion. I will now talk about pre-purchasing for around, 5 minutes or so. In order to have a proper discussion about pre-purchasing, we first have to define the term. Here I'll be using a very broad definition of paying for a product up front and receiving said product later on. The most common pre-purchasing practice is pre-ordering or buying season passes if you're focusing on DLC. Important thing to notice is that pre-ordering in its most basic form has absolutely no benefit. The game is coming out anyway and you can buy it at release date without losing anything. More than that, by pre-ordering you are actually waiving benefits, most important of which is the ability to read a review and find out whether the game is actually any good. This is even more visible with season passes, as those are often pushed without providing any information about the DLC. Buying a season pass of 4 DLC for the price of 3 may seem like a good deal before they come out, and you find out that of those 4, 2 are playable in the first place. That's why publishers are getting more and more aggressive with pre-order incentives. Simplest is to provide a discount or throw in more content that is also available separately. I think there's nothing wrong with that, as it simply shifts the risk calculation a little. Unfortunately, more common than that are pre-order exclusives. The reason most people find it so egregious is that locking content behind pre-orders means you're not calculating price versus risk anymore. If you miss out on a pre-order deal, you're losing content that you'll never be able to get. Another type of pre-purchase, on the surface very closely related but in fact very different, is kickstarting. The main difference between Kickstarters and pre-orders is that if no one buys a pre-order, nothing happens, but if the Kickstarter doesn't meet its goal, the product will not be delivered at all. On one hand, this means that by kickstarting you are actually contributing towards a project that wouldn't be completed otherwise. On the other, it involves even more risk, with many completed Kickstarters running out of funds due to mismanagement, most often feature creep, and release in a state less satisfactory than promised, or don't release at all. Add to that the lack of upper limit of how much you can contribute, with higher tiers promising incredible once-in-a-lifetime opportunities of getting your name in the game, and it's no wonder that so many get burned by it. Finally, a bit controversially, I throw early access in here as well. It's not the same as previous ones because you're actually getting a product the moment you pay for it, but if it's in early alpha, it may as well not exist. If I look at Steam's categories right now under top sellers, we still have Daisy and Rust, both from December 2013, with no sign of ever getting finished. There's also Forest, H1Z1 and Ark, all multiplayer survival games for whatever reason. That is not to say all early access is bad. If you haven't noticed, this very podcast originated from another one about an early access game. The reason Kerbal Space Program, Minecraft, Prison, Architected and so on succeeded is that at the time they went live, there was actually already enough content to satisfy the price tag, and anything that came after that was just a cherry on top of the, on its own, very satisfying cake. I believe that's the most healthy way to approach it. Assume that what you're getting right now is a finished product, and be pleasantly surprised whenever you see an update. Beware of the male crickets, Kmis.
Alright, so that was Kimis with his first audio letter.
Yeah, we have another one from him in just a little bit.
Right, but we'll take them one at a time. First of all, thanks for sending in scripts. Makes it easier for us. Second of all, yeah, I like how that you've went and you've actually broken down pre-ordering.
Yeah, which is something we probably should have done, was break it down a little bit more, because there are gray areas to pre-ordering.
Yeah, it's just like everything else. It's on a scale, and I think that your pre-order bonuses versus or general pre-ordering, then pre-order bonuses, and then pre-order exclusives. Like the way you've broken it down is very, very good. And I don't really have anything to add to any of that. I mean, excellent points all around.
Yeah, only thing on the pre-order bonuses is that sometimes those aren't available anywhere else. That's usually cosmetic stuff, though, so it's not quite as important.
Right.
But who knows, maybe somebody wants the golden gun, or who knows what they're selling as pre-order bonuses these days, you know? The mankini for Solid Snake.
Gotta have that mankini.
I think the more interesting part is actually Kickstarter and early access, something that we didn't really talk about in pre-ordering.
Right.
And it's technically pre-ordering, but at the same time it isn't. I separate Kickstarter from pre-orders just because Kickstarter, for a lot of projects, I should say, without the Kickstarter money, the project wouldn't get off the ground in the first place. It wouldn't exist.
Right.
Which is different from a pre-order, just because it's going to come out anyway. Right.
Yeah, like Star Citizen, for example, since we talked about it earlier, we'll just keep using it. If people actually... yeah, keep using and abusing it. Wink. But, if instead of becoming the runaway success that it became, if no one cared about Star Citizen, if no one supported it, it wouldn't be pre-ordering. The game just would not exist. I tend to think of Kickstarter as like investing.
Yeah, only you're not getting money back, you're getting your game.
Right, which I suppose you could argue that is a type of pre-ordering, and I can see where you put it in here. On a personal level, I don't feel like kickstarting something is pre-ordering it. It's more of like you are an investor in the product on a more of a top level. But I can see why you did that. Although I do think that something like Shenmue 3, that's more of a pre-order. Kind of a gauging interest pre-order.
Yeah, that and there was another one on our potential topic list that came out literally today was Rock Band on PC as a Kickstarter.
Right. And that is like
that's more market research.
Yeah, market research, a pre-order by a different name. So, but again, that's a gray area.
Yeah, when we talk about about Kickstarters and pre-orders, we're talking for Kickstarters the smaller projects, the ones that would never see the light of day if it doesn't succeed. And the thing is that unless the thing is a complete scam and doesn't happen at all, like Ant Simulator, which they're actually refunding the money anyway, if it doesn't meet its goal, you don't lose anything. But then you start hitting gray areas once again, like Double Fine, where they have to keep going back to the well because they overinflated their game and poorly spent their money.
Right.
So for Kickstarters, I'm not going to say don't do them, but try to be intelligent about it. Research the project. Is this too good to be true? Because if it is, it's likely a scam. And I really hate saying that about a lot of Kickstarters because there is some interesting stuff out there. But a lot of it is just so dodgy. And then you get these huge companies using it as more market research now, so they don't have to fund the complete game. And that is just so scummy.
Yeah, I agree.
And early access, that's a whole nother kettle of fish, because that's sort of a cross between Kickstarter and pre-order, just because the game's at least partly done. But it's hard to tell if it would come out without the Kickstarter bucks. I mean, look at Space Base.
Yeah. I don't consider early access pre-order at all, because there's no waiting period. You are buying a version of the product. Like you buy a prototype of the product, and then when the product changes and grows, but like you get it when you pay for it. So I don't consider that a form of pre-order.
Yeah, I always treat early access games as, is this worth the money in its current state? And for some games, it works out. You mentioned Prison Architect, you mentioned Kerbal, of course, because we are kind of a spin-off from a Kerbal Space Program podcast, and that was an early access game, as you mentioned. But, I could just go down my Steam list and find the early access games that are either dead or hasn't been updated in ages. It's not on my Steam list, but Towns, for example. That was just shoved out of early access without any ceremony, to be honest.
Yeah, which is sad because I actually liked the look of Towns and I wanted it to be finished, but alas, c'est la vie. One more thing about Kimis's letter. Up at the very top of the text bit that he sent us, he's asking about when we actually record time-wise. I'm going to do this in GMT. So we start recording at, quick pause so that I can mentally calculate what time it is.
Well, I can tell you right now it's 6 a.m. Zulu.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Zulu is the same as GMT.
Yeah. Well, I actually have a clock that's set to Zulu time on Windows.
Oh, fancy. Let's see. So it's 6 a.m. now, GMT.
Yeah, so we've been recording for 2.5 hours.
So that would be 3:30 GMT. We start recording at 3:30 GMT on Tuesday night, which I suppose in GMT that would be Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
So you can give us anything literally up to like a minute before we start.
I do post on both my personal and the official Twitter accounts about 6 to 8 hours before we start recording. And I also post it out when we started recording.
Right. Then that's our standardized recording time. What happened last week is a rare occurrence. I mean, I'm sure that we will have times where we record at different times.
Yeah, I would like occasionally, not make it a weekly thing, but to do a supplemental episode, an additional episode in between the normal big size episodes, and pick out a topic either that's going on that needs a more in-depth discussion, or just something from our general topics, and something to give me a little bit of practice on editing. So in case you have to go out of town. In case you have to go out of town again, I would be able to edit.
Yeah, you can edit those. There you go. Yeah, I like this idea. Record content and not do any other work.
You're sort of like sold on this.
I'm all in on that one. Yeah. But so that's when we start recording. 3:30 GMT.
And the supplemental episodes would not be doing community stuff, so that doesn't matter.
Right. And and 3:30 GMT. That's 3:30 a.m. GMT.
Yeah. Like I said, I just gave the time at 6:09 a.m. Wednesday morning right now after 2 hours and 26 and a half minutes of recording.
Yep. So that is when we record. So if you get your letters in really up to the minute before, like we open all of this stuff minutes before we start recording.
Pops up in the inbox while we're recording, we'll probably include that as well.
Yeah. So
there you go. Actually have probably up to about 6 a.m. But that's pushing it.
Yeah. So there you go. Next in the list, we have got a letter from B-Lug. We'll put a little break in between Kimis's audio letters. He's got another one coming up. But this is a short little letter from B-Lug. It says, "Hello, guys. I hope the email will be received in time. I'm a little late because my arm hurts so much from all of the twisting Shrink made it do. Speaking of Shrink, I loved your last Eve story. The whole rogue operation and piracy of your old corporation was so great. I hope you'll have other interesting stories in the future. Maybe I should just become a pirate. I can just tell Eve pirate tales, and we'll get a huge audience of people who like to listen to me tell stories."
I'll take the next one. Since nothing triggered me this week, let's add some personal news. I've been playing a lot of Dwarf Fortress in the past weeks, and last weekend I got to a new point in the game, the industry time. For the first time, I've been able to build a self-sufficient fortress and well-defended for now, and be able to concentrate on crafting stuff and building some industries only for the economic value. I'm so happy with that. Now it's time to dig deeper. Watch out for hidden fun stuff down there.
Okay, we're going to cut that out. We're going to send it to Biff, and we're going to charge him a laugh tax, a chuckle tax.
Well, I just pegged my microphone big time, so we'll see how that comes out as well.
Nice. The next little bit, I'd like to know...
Well, I do want to say I'm glad to hear you're enjoying Dwarf Fortress. Oh, that is such a deep game, if you pardon the pun there.
I see what you did there.
It's a tough game to really get into. Not just the gameplay itself, but also the interface really hurts at times. It does some odd things, and Toady, the dev that's been furiously working behind the scenes on Dwarf Fortress for a decade now, is going to redo the UI at some point, but not yet. So you kind of have to fight it to get it to do what you want. But moving on with the letter.
Right. He says, "I'd like to know if you've heard of Aurora 4X. I've heard that it's a space Dwarf Fortress genre game because, yeah, I think the name Dwarf Fortress is better than hardcore game since the industry made those two-player friendly nowadays. From what I get, looking a little at the wiki, it's a single-player Eve on dwarf steroids. Maybe Shrink will like it. I've heard of Aurora
Yeah, I've
4X.
toyed around with it a little bit. I haven't. Mostly, most of the reason why I haven't been able to really crack it yet is I didn't find, when I originally tried it years ago, a good tutorial series on how to really get into it. I've called Dwarf Fortress a game that you need 6 hours of tutorials, then you're able to barely play it on the most basic level. And Aurora, I didn't find that set of tutorials. It may be out there right now, and I just haven't looked for it again.
Yeah, I've heard of it, and then I went to go look at how to play it, and this has been a couple of years ago, when I was still working on my master's, and I was like, I don't have time for this right now. Maybe some other day. And then I forgot about it, so maybe this week I'll give it a shot. And then very quickly he finishes up. Have a good week, and don't forget, thou shalt not pre-order games. B-Lug. P.S. Seriously, I don't know why I buy games anymore with all these free games to play. Too bad they don't have multiplayer.
Yeah, and well, another reason why I don't buy a lot of games anymore, well, two reasons. One, I'm getting review copies for my YouTube channel now, Gaming with Caffeine Rage. Ding.
There you go. Plug that one in there.
But also, I just have such a backlog, plus the free games that are out there. That's why when Overwatch came out, that it wasn't going to be a free-to-play game, even though it feels like a free-to-play game, just the way they built it. It feels like it's not going to do as well as it should have. I'm not going to say it's going to fail. I mean, it's not going to pull a Battlefront. But, it doesn't... I think free-to-play has really become the standard model for a lot of games out there.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to seeing how free-to-play works out in the future. We're starting to see now free-to-play do really good games. Like, a few years ago, free-to-play was basically Farmville and that type of game. The Facebook game. But now we've got excellent free-to-play games.
We've got Team Fortress 2, which was originally a sold game, but that's beside the point.
But, I mean, there's that, there's Dirty Bomb, there's League of Legends, there's tons of free-to-play MMOs for pretty much anybody that's, fulfill what they're looking for. There's free-to-play WoW clones, there's Star Trek Online.
There's a free-to-play Diablo clone, Path of Exile.
Yeah, which is actually a good game, which is high praise for me, coming from someone who doesn't really like top-down isometric games.
We're going to have to try to fix that.
But, we're seeing here in the last couple of years a lot of really excellent free-to-play games come out. So I'm looking forward to see where the free-to-play model goes in the future. I mean, you really can build a gaming PC, spend $1,000, build a really good gaming PC, and then never have to spend another dollar on games again, and be really satisfied with the games that you play on a wide variety of genres. So, I mean, that's exciting. Granted, if nobody ever spends money, the industry will collapse because nobody spends money. But, I mean, it is possible if you're on a budget to build a decent PC and then not have to buy games without pirating.
Or at least put in a little bit of money to a game that you really enjoy.
Right.
It's an interesting time to be a PC gamer.
It's the most wonderful time
of the year.
Trying to sync that up in the middle of the podcast is going to be rough. I probably won't. I'll probably just leave it. I'm not going to lie.
You're going to take the game publisher route. Oh, great.
I'm not going to. It's too much work. Cutting out silence, fixing static and mic bugs or whatever. That's fine. Got to do that so it sounds good. But if we're just a little bit off sync, it's too much work. Forget it. We'll just be a little off sync there. I can let you on a little secret. I'm lazy.
No, really? Well, then why did you volunteer to edit this thing?
Because I'm the one with the experience in editing really long content, thanks to Kirbycast. So, moving on. Plus, to be honest, I enjoy it. I do enjoy it. It's easy work overall. It's just something I can sit and do and listen to us and be like, yeah, that was cool. Anyways, on to our last... This is our last letter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Our last letter, which is also an audio letter, once again from Chemist. Hello guys, so Chemist's letter was supposed to go here, but there's something wrong with the audio and it won't open properly. So since it's super short, I'm just going to read it and then cut this in. The letter reads, okay, quick question regarding the bonus episode. A couple of weeks back we were talking about piracy and came to the conclusion that one of the cases where it is justified is when there is no other way to access the media. So, how does this relate to the artificial scarcity of amiibos? NFC tags are dirt cheap, and you can clone the actual data with a phone if you're able to bypass the security. And with 3D printing becoming more and more ubiquitous, you should be able to also get the figurine for a reasonable price. I find this really interesting because it seems to be the first case that a physical object can be pirated. What are your thoughts on this topic? Cheers. Now back to your regular programming. So that was a quicker audio letter from Chemist.
Hey, he does bring up a good point. The possible piracy of some of these things.
I guess I'm just...
for amiibos in particular, and this is something that we both forgot to really mention. I didn't know about it because I haven't dealt with amiibos, and you didn't mention it, is that you have to register the little statues online to be able to use them. So
actually, I didn't know that. That has something that has changed since I had got my one and only amiibo.
Yeah,
I have never registered it.
Yeah, I was looking into it, and supposedly you have to register it now to get it to work, or with the newer versions. I know I just found a few tutorials on how to register your amiibos online, so that does take away some of the argument I made of preservation of DLC that otherwise wouldn't be there. Assuming Nintendo doesn't shut down or does shut down that process.
Right.
So that does kind of take away the possibility of piracy on those, because you're going to have to try to crack the encryption or whatever copy protection they have in them. That said, it doesn't prevent people from just 3D printing Mario and selling it as an amiibo online.
Yeah, I don't know. At least I've not kept up with 3D printing because I don't have access to a 3D printer. I did at one point, but I don't anymore, and so I don't know what it costs or anything like that. Could you do that and make a profit?
The printer itself is still very expensive, but the medium, the plastic, is pretty cheap now.
So over in the long run, you could, after an initial investment, you could make money then.
Yeah, and there's some methods. There was a DIY 3D printer that I saw. It was trying to bring down the cost of 3D printing. It was essentially, instead of the big cost of everything, is just how precise everything has to be.
Right.
Because it's just very, very small problems in the model could throw off the entire thing. And the solution I saw one person do, and I may have to go hunt this down, was instead of having a moving platform or a moving print head, have a resin that floats on water and is activated by a laser to harden. So it's literally just this floating mass of plastic of resin. I'm not sure if it was a plastic or not. And it literally just appears out of this blob in the water. It was really interesting. And the water slowly drips away. So it prints from the top down. It was just fascinating. And I'm going to have to try to find this now.
Right. Well, while you do that, I'm just... So, he asks at the very end. Seems interesting because it's like the first case where physical objects can be pirated. And what do we think about that? I get, like...
Would you download a car?
Absolutely. If I could download a car, you bet your ass I would. But, I think that in the case of amiibos, like, if I can just pirate the content that's on the amiibo, for me personally, I don't care about the figure. But it would be possible for someone who has a 3D printer or, access to one to download a blueprint for one of the amiibos, or as many as they wanted, print them, get their own NFC chip, which I didn't realize. He's saying they're dirt cheap. I don't know actually how much they cost, but a cheap NFC chip, get the pirated software, put it on the NFC chip, and then put the NFC chip in. Okay, so I just quickly looked up on Amazon how much NFC tags cost. You can buy a pack of 8 on Amazon for $10, and they're programmable and work with smartphones. So, I mean, you could make.
Yeah, that's still not exactly cheap, but it is cheaper than I thought it would be.
I would consider that pretty cheap.
Yeah, between that and the plastic that you would use, it'd probably be about $10 total. Just because the amount of plastic, the plastic itself. No, it probably wouldn't be $10. I'm probably thinking of an older pricing model. I'd say probably $5 of plastic, just to be generous.
Yeah,
that is it's an interesting idea to say the least. I don't think that they would have a problem with piracy just because of Nintendo being careful about the online activation. But something like Skylanders, does that require it?
I don't know. I know that the Disney Infinity, unless 3.0 requires online activation, you don't have to. You don't have to activate them. So, but I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's something that hasn't really been considered, and that's actually a really good question.
Yeah, I think that your average person won't do it because it's too much work.
Yeah, right now 3D printers are still very, very tough to get a hold of.
Well,
tough to get a hold of for a. Well, you also have to consider something that. I just thought of something. The time requirement, because a 3D printing is still very slow. It's not like a laser printer where you're just a page just shoots right out of it. It still takes hours upon hours for one of these things to print.
I can buy a 3D printer on Amazon right now for $300. It's probably not a super high quality one, but I could get one. They've got higher quality, more expensive ones, but I mean, kind of entry level 3D printer, $300. My actual printer cost me $200 for my office.
Yeah, I think the time investment's actually going to be the biggest hurdle, though, because essentially what a 3D printer is, and this is also going to generate a lot of emails, is it's a moving platform with a print head that's essentially a hot glue gun with plastic going through it. And that takes a lot of time to be able to render out something with it. And I think that's the biggest hurdle right now, isn't the expense of the 3D printer, even though that a good quality one that you would need to be able to pass something off as genuine would be very expensive still, especially if you're going to if you're trying to 3D print Mario, you're not going to be able to just 3D print it. You're going to have to be able to paint it. You're going to have to sand it. It's a time investment. And that's the hurdle, is where time is money. And it just takes too long to print a single thing for it to make sense financially.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But maybe one day.
Yeah, if they could get it where a print is, 10, 15 minutes, which would be just absurd. But right now, it is still quite a long time, unless there's been some sort of breakthrough that I don't know about.
When 3D printers become like inkjet printers, where that you hit print, your thing comes out, and it's ready to go right then, the proper colors, everything, then I think we'll start seeing it become much more prevalent. But right now, I just feel like it's a lot of work for someone to go through to do.
Yeah, there's a reason why 3D printed stuff still takes it's still very expensive, and it's the time.
Yeah. Well, I do feel as if we have answered that and discussed it fully.
I'm sure we'll get an email again about it.
Good.
About something we got wrong.
I welcome that email and the further discussion which it shall bring. But for now, let's move on to our Steam weekly deal discussion.
No. Yeah.
Nope, not yet.
You're,
What did I miss?
You're moving a little too quickly.
What did I miss?
We have tweets.
Oh, we have tweets. Okay.
Yeah, I can't believe you forgot about tweets.
Read us some tweets. I didn't forget about them. I just wasn't going to bring them up.
Yeah, and we have to actually have a question from a tweet at the very end of this.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
Yeah, and just happens to be at the very end. I didn't put it there. Let's see. Supe tweets at us. Were you putting an e-video up on your YouTube channel? This was actually directed to you. Could have sworn you mentioned it, but I don't see one anywhere.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. I was going to put it up, and then I think I mentioned last time that I rendered it improperly, and then I didn't get it ready to go before my trip. So that was my bad. I do apologize for that. It will be there, I promise.
Let's see. Unknown Spaceman. Achievement unlocked. My VGL podcast binge is finally complete. Good work, fellas. My ears barely bled at all, which I then sent them a tweet back saying, new achievement unlocked, send in a letter.
Nice.
And there was also a little bit of discussion there. Hayward Floyd responded, did you drive all the way to the West Coast? Which Spaceman responded, drive? No, I needed more time than that. And he sent out a picture of Forrest Gump with a long beard after all his running.
Well,
to which Hayward Floyd responded more like this. And have you ever seen the movie A Straight Story?
No, I have not.
You may not recognize the title of it. It's about a old man who drives, I want to say from like Arkansas to Wisconsin, or that area, on a lawnmower. And it took him months to do it. It was from the 90s, so it's probably before your time, but it took him months to do it.
I was alive in the 90s. I was just a kid.
Yeah. But you wouldn't have watched a movie like that. Let's be honest.
Probably not.
Let's see. Well, Hayward Floyd also has, in a response to my tweet from episode 10, or sorry, episode 8, I'm not in the future yet. People who like JRPGs and Biff made my day. I don't remember who said that.
I don't either. I think it was probably you.
Yeah. I'm usually the one that throws Biff under the bus.
Yeah.
Let's see. Supe, once again, I have a horrifying images in my mind. Is this an attempt to stem my deluge of text? To which he follows up, I was only joking. Nothing will stop me from typing. Well, maybe an email filter. But then you'd just get pigeons. I never tried Squab. And let's see, there was also a bunch of tweets stemming from a tweet I did on my personal account. Basically, have you listened to Kerbalcast yet?
No, I still haven't listened to this week's episode.
Okay, well, during their tweet section, which in no way we ripped off. Yeah, no
Time for the tweets. Time for the tweets.
Actually, to rip off this week, you need to do it in the birthday song.
No, I'll stick to the old one. The old one's best.
I tweeted at them in Morse code at one point just because it started this weird chain of from the previous week how they'll take any medium of content,
right?
And she translated all the Morse code and read some of it.
Nice.
And she said that we would have to try harder than that to get a tweet past her. And I said, "Is that a challenge?" And
challenge
then Hayward
accepted.
Floyd chimes in from that podcast battle: Kerbalcast versus VGL podcast.
Pod off. We could do a pod off.
And then Amy asks, "Why battle our pod cousins?" To which Hayward Floyd responds, "For dramatic effect." And then our podfather says, "Logic versus no logic." With Hayward Floyd chiming in, "Badger versus no badger." But we have the mole.
Badger versus the mole.
And then finally, we have our question from the tweets.
Okay.
And sorry this went a little long. I wanted to capture at least most of the tweets. It'll probably be shorter next time around just because this won't be 2 weeks worth of tweets.
Also, we were breaking the rules and we're breaking our format that we've only had one episode of to make up for last week's shortness.
Yeah. Ghost Shark asks, about Fallout 4. Do you think that they're holding back the GEC to cash in on DLC that modders could do better?
Yes.
I'm going to say yes and no.
Okay.
I don't think they're holding back the GEC because, I don't think modders could do story content like Bethesda does. Yes, I know there's things like Project Brazil and other huge story content, but they can't do it in the time frame. So I don't think they're worried about that. I think they're worried about the filler content that they're putting into the season pass. The combat arena, and the robot stuff. That is filler content that modders could do better, quicker,
and have done.
Yeah, and have done. Like I said, Corp. What's the last word of that? Approved. I think it was Corp approved. Was the mod?
I'm not sure.
That did that exact thing. So yeah, I do think that they're holding back the GEC to promote those type of mods, but for the story content, the GEC doesn't really matter all that much.
Yeah, that's a fair point, but I still think that it's much more yes than it is now.
Also, there's also the whole thing of where's the modding for the PS4 version and the console versions in general. They promised that, and I haven't heard anything about it. Have you?
No, I assume that it's going to be part of the GEC. The tools that they release, those mods, those will be the mods that will be compatible with all of the versions of the game. At least that's my assumption. I have, this speculation. That's what I'm speculating.
Yeah, that's where I think that they're holding back to make the season pass more important is the console side, not the GEC itself.
Yeah, because PC players can already get, any mod they want. There's tons of them out there. The list grows every day because, on the PC, modders can just go in and more easily just edit files and do what they need to do. Whereas on the console, there's extra hurdles you have to jump through in order to make that sort of thing work. Consoles are particularly resistant to modding.
Okay, and that's the end of the community nook, corner, couch thing. If you want to email us, it's bglpodcast@gmail.com or tweet us at the same thing, bglpodcast on Twitter.
Right. So now, let's move to the Steam Weekly Deals discussion. There we go. I got it. No, we're good. We're good. Okay. How many do you have?
I have 3, actually.
Okay. Just let me go.
Are you desperately trying to find something else? Because, to be perfectly honest, I struggled to find 2 on the Steam Weekly Deals just because... it was once again a case of a lot of quantity, but not a lot of quality. Okay,
so I kind of cheated. I told you this before. I picked a collection, so a pack that they had, which has 9 games in it. And I didn't pick. I had another pick, but I didn't pick it because my thing had 9 games in it. How many games do you have total?
Give me just a moment and I'll tell you.
Are you doing another bundle?
Possibly. I have 10 games.
Okay.
But a lot of these I really can't talk about in the bundle.
Let's see. Technically, okay, so these are some sequels. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 distinct games in this bundle.
I'll just take a couple of these and you can talk about the bundle so we don't have to try to figure this out.
Okay, sounds good. Go for it.
Okay, the first one is one that I really can't talk about too much. It's called Neon Strut. It's supposed to be a first-person RPG, sort of Deus Ex-like, I should say. I kind of tripped over my tongue there. That's what happens when I talk for 3 hours. It looks interesting. I don't have a lot of information about it. Supposedly, it is a bit on the short side. It's about 5 hours, so its original price of just under $20 seemed a little steep. But for $9.89, it's a little bit better. And it did just recently have a free expansion in November, so I'm not sure if the 5 hours counts that free expansion or not. And it also has Steam Workshop support.
This is a interesting looking game.
Yeah. Yeah, the workshop support literally has 2 things on it, though. So, don't buy for workshop support.
Yeah.
Like I say, I'm a sucker for interesting games. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but they're interesting.
It's different. I don't want to just call it like bad or weird or anything, but it's different from...
It has some... it has positive reviews, at least.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's also very stealth-based, but they do say that the AI is a bit on the dumb side, but how much of that is by design just because it's more of a stealth game?
Right. How, is the AI dumb to be forgiving, or is it dumb because it's just bad? Stealth games typically has dumb AI to be forgiving, so I'd give it the benefit of the doubt without playing it.
Yeah, but let's just put it this way. On the more like this, it shows Deus Ex across the board.
Yeah. Oh, hey, you're right. You said you were going to do 2? What's your next one?
I'll do the other one that I have to recommend. This was one I think I played ages ago, but it's from so long ago that it's hard to remember. Star Trek Starfleet Academy.
Oh, Starfleet Academy.
This is actually recently came out on Steam, but this is from 1997, back in the days of full motion video, starring the ham himself, William Shatner.
Oh yeah, the Shat.
And okay, Chekhov is there as well, but more importantly, George Takei.
Yes.
Oh,
really,
my.
George Takei is the best. Oh
Yeah.
my.
I will say that it is cheesy, but then again, it is a full motion video game for the most part. It does have simulator segments where you're flying various ships. I think mostly the Enterprise, if I recall correctly. I can't remember if I played this or not. I played a couple of the full motion video Star Trek games, but I can't remember if it was this one or not.
I've played Starfleet Academy. It's got a few different ships in it that you can fly, and it's classic Star Trek. It's kind of campy and silly and just lovely. If you're a Star Trek
it has
fan.
the Shad in it, so you're getting a bit camp anyway.
Yeah.
And it is a full motion video game on top of it. It does look like they're doing a border around the video to try to keep it from artifacting, which is a little annoying, but considering everything else. Yeah, it's from 1997. Think about it. This game's nearly 20 years old.
Yeah. Cut it some slack. I'd cut it some slack.
I think it's probably worth the $4.19 that they're asking for. It's pretty cheap to begin with. It's $6 total.
Yeah. I think it's funny that Iron Sky Invasion is in the more like this games.
I don't recognize Iron Sky Invasion. I'm going to have to look at it.
It's a fun, stupid, silly, campy game.
Very, very mixed reviews.
It's so much fun. It's a bad game, but it's it's one of those games that's so bad it's good.
So it's like the Room of video games.
Yeah. I'll have to tell you about it sometime. It goes on sale all the time for like $2. So one time when it's on sale, it'll be on my list and we'll talk about it. Okay, so my collection, my bundle, is the 1C Space Collection, which has got 9 games in it in total. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, 8 games in total. It has Parkin 2, Space Rangers HD, Star Wolves 1, 2, and 3, The Tomorrow War, UFO Aftermath, and UFO Aftershock. So I'm just going to tackle each of the series in order to save a little bit of time. Plus, the games are much more iterative than they are anything in the series. So first up, Parkin 2. Parkin 2's got a lot of mixed reviews. It's got some bugs, it's got some problems, but if you're looking for a really open world space RPG, this game has got that, and it's from a time before there were a lot of these games that existed. It's from the mid 2000s, so it's post freelancer, but it's not a freelancer-esque game. You can go to planets, run around, and do stuff. Honestly, it's a lot more like the X series, like X3 Terran Conflict and those games. It's a lot more like a mixture of that and kind of a Fallout-y Elder Scrolls type game. there's a lot you can do in it, like building bases, creating economies, building ships, and that's bases both on land and ground. But the game is buggy. It doesn't run great. But if you're looking for a cheap space adventure, I mean, it's normally only like $4 or $5 as part of this deal. Actually, it's not on sale. It's just thrown in with the bundle. But it's worth $4 or $5 if you can put up with the fact that it's an older game that has got some dodgier graphics.
Yeah, we're recommending a lot of old games this time around.
It does have like this campy, really cliched sci-fi story that involves like time travel and stuff like that. So even just the story is like a fun little romp like through classic sci-fi tropes. It's a lot of fun. On the bright side, since it's an old game, it'll run on a toaster or a potato, so no worries there. Space Rangers HD is next on the list, and it's a game that I know the least about. It's an open world strategy game. It's very similar, I think, to the Star Wolves series, which I'll get to in a minute, except you can go to planets and there's infrastructure and things that you can build and work with there. The space portion of the game is top down, which is kind of annoying because the ground portion of the game is more like a traditional real-time strategy game. But it's a fun little game, and it's got a lot of avenues and choices you can make and a world that you can build. I think the original game came out in 2006 or 2007, and this is just an HD remaster. It runs better in modern resolutions and can hit frame rate targets above 60. I think the old game was locked at 60 FPS. But like I said, I'm not as familiar with this game. I have only barely played it, so take what I have to say on that one with a grain of salt. Do you want to jump in and do another game, or do you want me to keep going?
Well, the next thing is my big chunk of games. I could at least no. Go ahead. Let's go ahead and finish off yours, and then we'll do my chunk of game.
Okay. Next is the Tomorrow War.
I just wish I packed a lunch.
Next is the Tomorrow War, and it is a space sim, but it focuses really heavily on the story, which honestly is a bad thing for this game because it's a Russian developed game, so the voice acting is really bad and the translation can be dodgy at times.
Well, I know games like that. I played one just last week. Ugh.
The gameplay itself, though, is pretty solid. It is much more what I would consider classic freelancer than any of the other games that I've talked about or will talk about in this series. And so the gameplay's solid. If you can get past the awful voice acting and the dated graphics, it's got some good gameplay to hold you over, but I can totally understand if the voice acting is just like, no, I can't stand this. But it's got a lot of good ship customization and different story elements that you can play with, branching paths, that sort of thing. So it's a fun game. Just got to be able to deal with the Russianness. Next are all of the Star Wolves games. And these games are pretty iterative, particularly between the first one and the second one. The second one and the third one are basically the same, just the third one has got a much broader story. But essentially, it's a... think of it as like a homeworld game with a persistent universe that grows as you go through it. You're in command of a mothership and a fleet of mercenaries. And as you progress through the game, you unlock more powerful upgrades for your mothership and better ships for your mercenaries and, so on and so forth, that sort of thing where you're building a crew. It's got persistence, so if someone dies, they're dead. Your stuff carries over from mission to mission, and if it gets destroyed, it's gone, and that sort of thing. All three games have branching paths. In the first game, that comes in the form of mission selections. So you choose which missions you want to do, and then it puts you on a map, which is just a big chunk of 3D space you can maneuver in. Up, down, left, right, forward, backwards, that sort of thing. The second game expanded on that a little bit, and you would accept missions, and you could have multiple star systems which you could travel to. And then the third game just opened it up into a galaxy map, and you traveled around and collected missions from star bases and planets and stuff like that. The graphics get better as the game goes forward, but basically it's the same game with 3 different stories and a few improvements as you move forward through the years. They're a lot of fun. They're really tough. Insanely tough. I remember the first time I played Star Wolves 3, it took me 3 hours to get past the tutorial mission because of how often I died in the tutorial. It's a tough game, but it's a lot of fun. It's really rewarding. It's one of those games that, it challenges you and you have to play smart in order to win. The AI doesn't pull any punches. And they don't cheat either. Every time you get beat, you're like, well, I really screwed that one up. So it's good. Good game. Next on the list, the Tomorrow... Oh, wait, no, I said that one already. I did the Tomorrow War. Apologies. Next on the list is the UFO series. There's 2 on here, UFO Aftermath and Aftershock. I believe there's a third UFO game called Afterlight. These are turn-based tactical squad games with some kind of strategy management elements to them. You have a base that you build and on a planet, and the planet is different for each game. And you have to collect resources, you have to acquire and defend territory, you have to research things, etc., etc. And then you have squads that you assemble and you take out in shuttles to do missions. And missions can range from kill all the enemies to collect the science to performing experiments and performing maintenance tasks. And the game randomly generates most of the missions, and then it has a big random elements generator. So if you get 2 missions over time, like for example, go here and repair this generator, you do that one time and it's really boring, nothing shows up, you repair the generator, you go home, it's fine. You get the same mission, say the next week, and you're thinking, oh, I just have to go repair the generator, and you go to repair the generator, and then the game will spawn, enemies on you this time, and you have to fight them. It's like, oh, you've been ambushed. Defend yourself. And it can do a lot of different things on missions to help keep them from being so repetitive. It's a pretty decent game. It's a bit... The UI is a bit off. Again, it's another Russian-designed game, and the voice acting is better in this one, and the storyline is better in this one than some other games. Like it's got better voice acting and a better storyline than the Tomorrow War, for example. But the UI is wonky. I don't know if that's just something that's lost in translation between the 2 game devs, or if it's just bad, or sorry, between the different countries. But it can be a bit obtuse to try and figure it out. But overall, it's a solid game. The entire bundle for all 8 games costs you $16. Oh, why are you doing this? $8.74. It was not showing me the proper thing. And I think each of those games is worth it. I mean, basically, you're paying $1 and some change for each game, and every game on that list is worth $1 and some change. So that's my list. That's all I.
Huh? What?
Ha ha. That's all I came up with for this week.
Well, I wanted to talk about actually both the Humble Bundles real quick, since we're going long anyway, right?
Sure.
Why the hell not? Let's first talk about the one that I would say is actually the better one.
Well,
is the Humble Indie Bundle 16.
Let me jump in here for just a second. I do have to go to sleep and work with clients tomorrow, so I'm more than willing to go long.
I'm not going to go as in depth into all of these.
Okay.
Okay, Humble Indie Bundle 16 has 9 games total. No additional games are unlocking, so what you see is what you get, and it closes in 6 days, which is actually, about Monday or Tuesday. So the Monday or Tuesday after this comes out. So, it closes about the same time the weekly deals does anyway. So I feel okay doing this.
Okay.
I only have experience with a few of these, though, so I can't really go too in-depth in all of them. Retro City Rampage. The first tier is Pay What You Want. Retro City Rampage DX. Really good top-down, basically old-style. I'm talking about pre-GTA 3, so, GTA, GTA 2, GTA was it 1969 for in the UK or?
I have no idea. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Basically, it's a top-down version of GTA, the old GTAs. But this also is littered with a bunch of, I don't want to call them memes, but just references to old video games and pop culture. For example, you go back in time in a DeLorean and be essentially Doc Brown. At one point, you're going through the sewers, and in the background, you could see the old arcade version of Mario Brothers in the background with the turtles going across. You know, just things like that. If you're huge into gaming and like the old style GTAs, it's a good one to pick up. It has a lot of references that would entertain you. It is very, very tough though. So if you're not winning a game that's going to kick your ass, avoid it.
Fun fact, Retro City Rampage was the very first game I ever reviewed. It was it was the game that got me on. They were like, okay, here's this game, review it. If it's good, you're on the team. So that was where I got my start in game reviews. I did not like Retro City Rampage.
It's, like I said, it's very tough and tough to get into.
The thing that bothered me the most was the fact that it was top-down. Again, that's my personal thing that's getting in the way, but, you know.
Yeah.
Anyways.
The rest on the P1 tier is games I don't have a lot of experience with. Outlast, which is a zombie survival game. No idea if it's any good or not.
Yeah, I've never played it either.
And the other one is Never Alone plus the Foxtails DLC. I've heard some really good things about it, but I don't have first-hand experience with it.
I'm familiar with the game, but again, yeah, I don't have first-hand experience with it either.
And on the pay above the average, which is at the time of recording $5.67. First one is a game I would avoid like the plague. Tron 3, The Artifacts of Power. Oh, this was such a disappointment. And I've played the first two Tron games on my channel because I enjoyed them that much. Tron 3 basically takes everything that was good about Tron and removes it. It removes all the skill ups. It puts it into a pseudo 3D space where, trying to think of a good example of it. You're moving on a 2D plane, but you have the 3D where you can move back and forth as well on that plane.
Uh-huh.
And it made some of the puzzles very, very finicky. And because it removed a lot of the abilities, you know, it took a lot of the reason to explore out, because in the previous Tron games, the reason why you would explore was to get the extra experience, to level up your guys, to be able to, you know, do other things. Very disappointing. Supposedly they are going to try to make it better. Oh, and also Tron 3 ends on a cliffhanger. They didn't finish the story. Supposedly they're going to go back at some point and finish the story if they have enough money, which I imagine them being in this Humble Bundle is probably a way to try to do that.
Right.
Door Kickers, another game I'm actually familiar with. Door Kickers is a top-down tactical shooter. Think Rainbow Six. It is a very, very good and very tough, somewhat real-time strategy because it has the active time pause like FTL. And it's essentially the planning phase of Rainbow Six. If you ever played Frozen Synapse, another game that I mentioned before, this is basically Frozen Synapse, only you're with police SWAT units.
Okay.
And it has a graphics.
Fun.
Know anything about those two?
No, I don't.
Duet, which I have no idea about, and the fact that Polygon says it feels as designed as a raindrop and just as perfect. You know, that doesn't really sell me on it.
I thought Duet was exclusive to PlayStation platform. But I guess not.
Well, or I guess it's moved over. It shows a icon of a red and a blue thing going in a circle. And then Forced, which is an action RPG. I don't have first-hand experience, but I do find that the fact that they call Forced the slightly better edition on Steam it's amused me. And then the pay average price plus $2, which is just weird. Is 2 games. Else Heart dot Break, which I have no idea what it is, and Sunless Sea, which I do know what it is, and that's a very good game for just under $8. Sunless Sea is top-down, essentially roguelite, where you're piloting a ship on the undersea, and a lot of bad things happen to you. Very Cthulhu-like.
Yeah, we've discussed Sunless Sea a couple of times on the podcast.
Yeah. And that's the Humble Indie Bundle 16. And the only reason why I went over that was that I really can't talk a lot about the Star Wars bundle just because I'm only familiar with a couple games on here. The first tier, the Pay What You Want, I have no idea on any of these games. These are very old games. The only one that I think I know is Star Wars Galactic Battleground Saga. But it doesn't look familiar to me.
I mean, Star Wars Galactic Battleground Saga is basically Age of Empires 2 with a Star Wars skin on it. So if you like Age of Empires 2 and you like Star Wars, Galactic Battleground Saga is great.
Yeah, and some of these are just ancient as well. Star Wars Rebellion, Star Wars X-Wing Alliance.
Star Wars Rebellion is an amazing game. If you've ever played the Star Wars Empire at War game, which is farther down in the pack, it's like that, except more in depth. It came out in, I want to say, like the mid-90s.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the screenshot of it. Yeah, it's very, very old.
I used to play it a lot. I never quite figured out the battle system. I always used to do auto battle because when I did auto battle, at least some of my guys didn't die. But it's a lot of fun. The political stuff is much more important. Espionage and that sort of thing is much more important. Whereas in the future game, Star Wars Empire at War, it just all becomes about money.
Yeah, Star Wars X-Wing Alliance, Star Wars X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, Balance of Power campaigns. I don't know any of these. Oh, and you also get 10% off the Humble Monthly Bundle, which that's something that we probably should talk about at some point.
Yeah.
The pay what you the average tier right now is $7.80. You get Star Wars X-Wing Special Edition, Star Wars TIE Fighter Special Edition. I can't really talk about either of these. And there's 2 other ones that I can talk about, which I'll lump them together. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords.
KOTOR.
2 very, very good RPGs.
Excellent RPGs. The first one is currently being remade. I believe it's a fan project to remake the entire game.
Assuming that just get shut down by the House of Mouse.
Oh, I'm sure it'll get shut down. I'm sure.
And the second one actually got a patch not too long ago and got Steam Workshop support.
Yes, and also made it much easier to access a whole bunch of content that was cut from the game.
Yeah, through the Steam Workshop support. And you also get 75% off of up to 3 Star Wars titles from the Humble Store, excluding any titles in this bundle. And there's more to come on that tier, which we don't know. We'll know next week. I'll probably not cover this again, though. Then pay $9.99 or more to unlock. This is why the average price is so much higher. Star Wars Empire at War Gold Pack, which is the RTS for the Star Wars franchise, I guess is the proper term.
Yeah, the gold pack includes the main game and then the expansion, which the expansion added some neat stuff, but the pirate faction isn't that great.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was a very good RTS, though.
It was very good overall. The ground portions of it were really nice and well done. The space battles, while I'm sad they're not actually on a 3D plane, they also were done very well. So it's a good RTS. It's a good Star Wars game. It's good fun.
And finally, Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga, which I'm assuming this means all 6 Lego Star Wars games.
Yeah, and even though the prequel trilogy was not the best, we'll say.
Are we talked about this the Lego games or in general?
No. I just mean like the general Star Wars. The prequel trilogy was not great, but the Lego games are all fun. All 6 episodes worth of the Lego games are a lot of fun. So, I mean, if you've played any of the Lego games before and you like them, just buy this. You'll like it.
And finally, on a $35 tier, an exclusive Star Wars t-shirt for Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords. Which, if you really want a t-shirt, I mean, it's essentially a $24 t-shirt if you include the games,
Right.
But that's my recommendations. I decided just to throw a humble indie bundle 16 in because, I couldn't really talk too much about Star Wars.
Right. Well, that was my recommendations and your recommendations. So you know what that means. It's time to head to the wrap-up phase. What is going on your channel this week, Rage?
Things are pretty much continuing as is. Have we talked on here since I started the Sunday Sampler, though?
No. You were going to start it on the last episode, I believe.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks since we recorded, so I can't remember if I started it or I had started it. Okay, the Sunday Sampler is essentially just me going into my, for now at least, going into my review copies and just picking out a random game and playing for usually 30 minutes to an hour. I think my longest one's only in like the 45-minute, 50-minute range. And I'm basically just picking something that looks interesting and playing it and doing a semi-first impression, semi-let's play on it.
Right, okay.
It's been interesting. I've done essentially a mobile port of a Endless Runner, which wasn't terrible. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. It was a fairly cheap game. And the other one called We Are the Dwarves, which is it looks like an ARPG, but once you get into it, it's actually more of a stealth game. But they don't give you the tools of a stealth game, so it turns out to be very, very frustrating.
Interesting.
And eventually you get control of 3 dwarves at once, and to do it does the real time with the pause like FTL. But I didn't get to that point in 40 minutes. I got through the first dwarves area, which my main problem with it was actually that it's designed around pausing. So if you move and then attack, it'll try to move no matter what to that spot and then attack. Which doesn't sound that bad in general, but it doesn't cancel the previous move. So if you try to click on an enemy to attack and misclick and move right next to him, there's nothing you can do to stop that.
Right.
And also, it is a Eastern European game. I don't think it's a Russian game. So the voice acting is a little bad.
Right.
Oh, there were some cringeworthy moments in it, and it's not even the traditional Scottish dwarfs either. It's this weird dialect. It was an interesting game. If you could get past the dodgy controls, and also for some reason the opening cutscene, which was a static image, ran at like 15 FPS when I was recording, and I have no idea why.
That's weird. At least it was static image, though.
Even not recording, I was getting sub 30 FPS. It was just a static image of panning around it.
It's a really high quality JPEG.
Yeah, really. And outside of that, SteamWorld Dig and Darksiders are continuing pretty much on track. I am redoing the thumbnails on my YouTube channel, though, so I'm making them a little bit more branded. Which it's probably going to take me a couple of weeks to get through the thumbnails that I have for Darksiders. I'm not sure if I'm that lazy to redo them or not. Because I tend to do all my artwork, or a good chunk of it, ahead of time.
Right.
But it's, you'll see if you check out my channel. It's very colorful.
I check out your channel.
Just say it that way.
I'll check it out. I'll see it. And where can they find your channel?
Gaming with Caffeine Rage, or if you want to tweet at me, I've been chattering away quite a bit recently. Gaming with CR on Twitter.
Sweet. Well, for me this week, like I said, I do apologize. I did not get my Eve video sorted out before I went on my trip, and my laptop just can't. My laptop can handle some audio editing, it can handle some basic games, but you throw a video editing software at it, and it just goes, and it melts itself. So that video will be up this week. I give you my word. I swear on, I don't know, the life of my firstborn. The Eve video will be. Other than that, I am still doing some preliminary recording to get a jump start on my next Space Engineers series. Right now, I've got enough recorded for 2 episodes. I'd like to have 5 recorded before I start posting them weekly. Also, I'm all caught up on streams, so I'm back to regular streaming, or I should say regular posting of streams on YouTube. Which usually
we're gonna get back to streaming this week.
Yes, usually the streams lag about a week behind on the YouTube channel, so we're caught up to that point again. And other than that, I don't have much planned right now.
Our co-op project is still on the table. It's just we haven't had a chance to really sit down and record it because we eat up 3.5 hours doing this.
Yeah, well, we eat up 3.5 hours doing this, and then I eat up another 1.5 or 2 hours editing it after the stream on Wednesday night. But I don't have much anything else going on right now. I'm starting to record some vlogging stuff. I've recorded one of those so far, but it has not been rendered. And I've got another idea for a project that's not gaming related that I think is fun. Actually, I've got 2 ideas, and one of them I have a plan in motion to start working on it. And the other one I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I want to do it. So I'm going to make it happen. I've got some time coming up in a few weeks when I'm going to have the house to myself for 2 weeks when my wife takes my kid and goes and visits the in-laws.
In other words, known as pantless weeks.
No, that's how I am in my house anyways. Who needs pants, really? But so those weeks are when I will work out some of that stuff, and we'll get something on it. But that's a few weeks in the future. So this week, the Eve video, I'd like to have my first vlog up, and then streams as well as the podcast being posted on my channel, which is Gaming Psychologist on YouTube. I hit 50 subscribers this last week, so I was
very nice. Congrats!
Thanks.
I've been sitting just under 100 for about a month now. I'm at 94 right now.
Yep. But so yeah, I hit 50. I was pretty excited. I'm looking forward to starting to climb again because I kind of plateaued for a while when things got crazy in my life and I quit posting regularly. But working real hard to get back into it. Also, you can find me on Twitter at JMA4707. I have got a few new followers this week, and I assume that it is from people who have listened to the podcast and have come to follow me.
Yeah, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw out the official Twitter as well. VGL Podcast, also on Twitter, and we're doing fairly well on Twitter followers.
Yeah, we're doing good.
It turns out it does a lot better than the hashtag did.
Yeah. You can also email us at vglpodcast@gmail.com. But
you're moving swiftly to the exit
well,
now.
I just saw a point to slide that one in there. But no, for Twitter, I'm doing better about posting more on Twitter. I just had a couple of weeks where things went crazy for me. You know what's been going on a little bit more, but just the clinic got out of control, and well, not out of control, but just my hours that I work in my clinic have gotten shifted around a lot, and I have kind of become like a backup last minute, like, oh hey, we need you to pick these people up, and it's like, well, crap. Okay. Because I mean, it's part of my contract for working there. I have to do it unless I have a really valid reason. And it's gotten crazy, and I'm working on negotiating.
Right, and let me guess, XCOM 2 is not a valid reason.
No, it's not. But I'm working on negotiating some of that stuff and bringing my life back into more order, because I don't function well in chaos in any way. So please bear with me, and thank you for bearing with me over the next couple of weeks as I get things resorted out again. But yeah, that wraps it up for me.
Yeah, and that moves us swiftly to the end of the show, doesn't it? I do want to say that we are up to 13 followers on the Twitter, but that does include both of us as well, so that's really 11.
We have 36 subscribers, according to FeedBurner. And I still can't see how many subs we have on iTunes. But
because that would be useful.
It would be useful. I'm sure there's a way to see it. I can see now how many downloads that we are getting per episode. And
really?
On iTunes, we are averaging 10 downloads per episode.
Wow.
So,
considering how crowded the spaces on iTunes. That's really impressive, actually.
Yeah, and FeedBurner does not include iTunes subs in its listing. So we have 36 subs subscribe to us through various podcast apps, or who just directly download the RSS the files from the
which
RSS
I
feed.
do apologize for the issue with the last episode. Basically, the blog didn't capture the MP3 properly, but I was able to fix it in about an hour. It was literally 5 minutes after I woke up.
We're roughly up to 50 subscribers combined between iTunes and FeedBurner. So
yeah, hopefully going back to a long episode doesn't chase them off.
Well, it's not too long. We're sitting at just over 3.5 hours recorded. We had some waffling about that will get edited out. So I'd say that we'll
waffles.
I'd say we'll hit pretty close to the 320, somewhere between 320 and 330, which is a little bit long, but we're kind of making up for last week, and we just wanted to talk to each other because you missed me and you love me.
Yeah, I did. I'll admit it. It was too boring. No streams, no Tuesday night, Wednesday morning chat.
Yeah. I missed you too, buddy.
And if you don't want to miss us, head over to videogamelogicpodcast.blogspot.com. Yes, I am quickly moving through the end of the episode now.
That's okay. You can find all of the blog posts there, all of the episodes there. You can also find us on iTunes. Just search for Video Game Logic. We would really appreciate feedback on our podcast. We would prefer positive, but if you feel the need to leave us a negative, please do so and tell us why so that we can fix whatever the problem is.
And our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod. And you can find his work at incomputech.com.
So does that wrap us up?
Pretty much, except for the goodbyes, and hopefully the Podfather isn't trying to insinuate more fights.
Fight, yes. Well, as always, as the music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
I think I probably need reading glasses, to be perfectly honest.
Rage is an old man, everybody. Getting reading glasses.
Well, I have malted milk balls. What do you expect?
It's old man
candy.
If you were really an old man, you'd have milk duds. My grandfather
I don't like milk duds, to be honest.
I like milk duds. My grandpa used to have them all the time.
Well,
he'd have a milk dud and
the problem is that sometimes they taste a little burnt to me.
He'd have a milk dud and a cigarette. Well, a box of milk duds. He'd get the mini boxes that would have a handful of milk duds in them, and he'd smoke a cigarette and eat milk duds.